Welcome to Pick Me Up, I'm Scared, the podcast.
I'm your host, Madeline.
And I'm your co-host, Kenna.
All right, Kenna, before we started today, I wanted to do just an announcement for anybody who missed it on the last episode. Because it is December and it is holiday time, we are doing like intermediary episodes, just like whenever it's convenient, right?
Yes.
Yes, so we won't have any content on our Patreon probably either until January.
Yeah.
But there will be content we'll post in January.
Yes, we are going strong in 23.
Yes, we are. 23 is going to be the year of Pick Me Up, I'm Scared, the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
23, lucky number.
23 and me, but it's us.
Yeah. Also, the worst Jim Carrey movie.
23?
Yeah, it's about the number 23, and he's like, I forget what it's about.
Wait, I think I remember. Is there like a child who like interprets like weird signals and like writes them?
But he's like sexy in the movie.
Jim Carrey sexy?
Yes.
Wait.
But I do, not to me. But they try to be like, ooh, he's dark and edgy, and he's like, you know.
Like Nicolas Cageify him.
Yeah, but it didn't work.
Interesting. Now I feel like I need to really pursue watching this movie.
But anyway, 23, the year of Pick Me Up,
right.
I'm Scared.
Yes, not talking about Jim Carrey, talking about our podcast. It'll be good. But yeah, so if you're wondering about bonus content on our Patreon this month, realistically.
But there's so much good stuff on there. Like,
I think you're right. We do have some bangers.
Yeah, like if you are going on a long trip, you know, that Patreon for $2 a month, you can listen to the entire back catalog of
bonus content
while, you know, you are making your way across the country.
That's
the world.
True. Or the world. We have one bonus episode we just did about Beetlejuice as an allegory for gentrification.
I think it is one of our best bonus episodes.
I think it's pretty good. My other favorite one is when we did Kenna versus the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
And we talked about all of the war motifs in the military and propaganda about Iron Man.
Yes, and I have more feelings about this movie, too. I just watched the Robert Downey Jr. and Sr. documentary as well.
Oh, that might be interesting bonus content.
Yeah.
And then we also had one where I did a tarot reading about the downfalls of capitalism.
That one's really good. Honestly, I think that Madeline could have a fourth career as a tarot reader. Honestly, Madeline is psychic. Maybe one day on the Patreon, we will just do
tarot readings. Oh, I would love that, actually. That would be very fun for me. I don't believe in being psychic, but I think I am good at reading signals from people very quickly and making assessments about their lives and telling people what to do. And I think that really, and I like the tarot cards. They look cool, and some of them have Satan on them. So I think that is cool.
I think you're just psychic.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's my hot take.
Is that I am psychic. Psychics are real, and I'm one.
I don't think psychics are real, but I think that you're real and you're psychic.
Oh, okay. I like it. All right. So that's pretty much all of the stuff I just wanted to make sure we said at the beginning of the episode, because we said it at the end of the last episode and some people missed it. So maybe we'll just do little announces at the beginning.
Yeah. You know, we got all, you know.
We got some stuff. We got some stuff going on. Okay. So I guess that takes us to our actual episode now.
Ooh.
Which I'm starting off with a question like always. Kenna, today I wanted to ask you, what's the most people you've dated at the same time? Either committed, casual, whatever.
Never committed. Casual, 3.
Okay, that's
but very
right.
briefly, like, I don't know. I don't want to be judged, but
no judgment.
But it was more, okay, like, you know, when you're like, I am kind of like a serial dater, like monogamist.
Yes.
Which is like, you know, whatever, you know.
It's probably a trauma response of some kind, but as far as it goes,
it's a neutral thing.
It feels neutral. It doesn't feel too bad.
But, you know, like, when I've been in between boyfriends, like, I think, you know, just, you know, dating around. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like a guy you go on a couple dates with. You're going to be like, I'm also going on dates with this other guy and also this other guy.
No, you're not. In fact, one time I was only casually hanging out with this guy, and I mentioned something about how I couldn't see him this one night because I had another date that night. And I remember he was like, how many other people are you seeing? And I was like, I don't know, like 5 or 6. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, why is this surprising to you? We hang out once a week. And he goes, who has the energy to see somebody more than once a week? And I was like, oh, this is very funny.
Yeah, but I always feel a little like, I don't know, not embarrassed about just my, I feel like I should have dated more people by my age.
Right, like in between the relationships.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it.
I know there isn't, but, I think that I don't watch reality TV, but what The Bachelor is telling me is that I've done it all wrong. Or I have done it all right. I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Okay, I would not, as someone who is Bachelor Nation, I would not base anything on your life in relation to anything that happens on that show ever.
Or maybe just in, like, pop culture, I want to be like Sex in the City, but I'm kind of too boring.
Well, the other day, 4 of us did go out, and somebody said it was like Sex in the City.
Actually, it was like Sex in the City. It was very fun.
It was really, really fun. That was a very fun night. I got very drunk.
Yeah, I didn't get drunk, but I got I had a nice time.
Okay, I drank way too much. Is that the night that your boyfriend picked us up and brought us taco? No, that was a different night.
Yeah, that was a different night.
We took Ubers this night. Oh, you left early, and someone who was with us got so drunk that they were throwing up in the street walking home at the end of the night.
No, okay. I was in the group chat, and I was like, why is our friend being like, I'm sorry about last night? Because I had left at the point in the night where I was like, because I had to wake up early.
Right. No, we, the night continued. Suffice it to say, the night continued. Yeah, so, you're more of a boyfriend girl.
Yeah, kind of.
I like that.
Or it's turned out that way. Theoretically, not.
Mm-hmm.
In practice, yes.
Got it. For me, I think that the biggest I've ever done dating is that I had 3 committed partners at the same time that were also like long-term relationships. And at the same time, I was also casually dating other people here and there. And that was the most just because the 3 committed partners were all like very serious relationships that took up a big role, both in my schedule, but also like my brain and my feelings. Like they were all people I cared a lot about, and it was really, really overwhelming. It was like 3 super serious relationships was too much for me to keep up with.
Yeah, I think I have just, I think like me, like maybe like, culture is like monogamy by default. For me, my brain cannot handle more than like one person at a time.
That's how it goes. I feel like lots of people are like that. I don't think, for me though, I don't think it's a secret that anyone who knows me knows that non-monogamy has always been the thing that I've done, since I realized that was the thing you could do anyway. I was like, oh shit, you can just do this? Like this is what I'm doing from now on. And it got to the point where on first dates by my mid-20s, the first thing out of my mouth, just to make sure nobody got any weird ideas, I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't really do monogamy. And then usually people just be like, yeah, cool, that's same. And it would be fine in my dating circles anyway.
I only learned about that because I had an older friend who was just like, oh, I do whatever I want. I don't do that. Yeah. And I was just like, wait, what? Because, being like, I don't know, teenager still. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa. You can do that?
Yeah. You can have whatever relationship you want as long as you communicate it.
They did more, like, she more framed it as, like, I do what I want to.
Right. She was not ethically non-monogamous. She was just yeah. I get it. Like, obviously now, I've been in a monogamous relationship for 7.5 years, which is pretty wild to me. My current boyfriend, though, does know that I struggle with monogamy. We talk about it all the time, and he is really good at communicating his boundaries, but also like giving me space to process my feelings. And honestly, it's pretty shocking I even ended up in a monogamous relationship, let alone one that lasted 7.5 years.
Wow. Yeah, my longest relationship, I think, was 7 years.
Yeah.
Which is, like, once you start being in your 30s, you're like, the idea of being with someone for over 5 years, like, you would have never thought.
Never.
Like, when you were 20, you'd be like, what?
Yeah. And me and my boyfriend, we have a great relationship. Love my boyfriend. On our first date, I did give him the no monogamy spiel, right? And he was like, yeah, I just moved to LA. Like, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm just trying to have fun. That's totally fine. And we hung out for a few months. And then it hit a point where, he like told me, he's like, okay, if we move forward, I would need monogamy. Like, I respect you and what you're about. And it doesn't sound like that's something you want. So we probably shouldn't hang out anymore. And, you know, the way he said it was, like, really respectful and kind. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Maybe I could try this with you. And that's kind of how we entered it, where I was like, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. Like, I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I'll promise to do my best. And he was like, yeah, you don't have to be perfect, but if you slip up, it is an automatic breakup to me, just so you know. Like, I won't be mad, but that's a firm boundary, and I'm telling you now. And I really respected that. And he was like, yeah, if you're okay with that, we can try. So he knew from the jump, basically, it would be a struggle to me because it was so different than what I had been interested in before. And we just kind of had to work it into our relationship dynamic. And today, yeah, it is hard, but, like, I still, like, I get to talk to him about my feelings about it all the time, check in. And I think that, you know, we have, like, a really open line of communication about it, which allows space for me to process all my big feelings. But it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I will say your boyfriend rocks.
He's the best. We love him.
I really like him.
Yes. At first, I, like, felt, though, like, when he and I first started dating, like, if I ever even thought about another person, I would just need to tell my boyfriend everything in complete detail so I wasn't a liar. Because that was really important to me. I was like, I don't want to be a liar to you. I want to be really, really honest with you. And he was like, for sure, I get that. But also what you're doing is, like, kind of ridiculous. Like, keep your private thoughts private, because at a certain point, hearing all of this is just kind of cruel. Like...
Yeah, sometimes when people are like, well, I'm just honest, I'm like, you don't have, like, for me, maybe this is a hot take, you don't have to say everything that pops into your mind.
No, you don't.
Because it might be really mean.
It might be hurtful, yeah. And he explained it to me like, look, like, monogamy isn't this idea that you're never going to be interested in another person or have thoughts about another person or other people generic. Monogamy is just a choice. It's a choice not to act on those thoughts. And that led to me having this, like, mantra in my head, which you've probably heard me say, Kenna, which is monogamy is a choice and I choose it every day. Have you heard me say this?
I have heard you say, but in my mind you're saying it like you're saying a rosary.
Yeah.
Like you're monogamy is a choice and I choose it every
day. Yes, if you know me IRL, you've probably heard me say this. You've probably heard me drunkenly scream this at 1 a.m. in a bar at least a few times over the past 7.5 years. You know, it's easy for me to conceptualize, and honestly, my boyfriend's the first person who ever made monogamy make sense to me. Like, when he explained it that way, he's like, yeah, it doesn't assume that you're, like, a robot who doesn't have human feelings. It just assumes that, like, you're choosing it because that's the boundary your partner laid out. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know? Yeah. Never made sense to me before that, though. But yeah, so now, obviously, 7.5 years later, like, my partner and I, we have, like, a really wonderful life together. We have fun. We actually really like each other a lot. We have the same sense of humor. We love talking to each other. Sometimes we're that obnoxious couple who still, like, holds hands in public and, like, stands too close, you know? I think that's us. He's fantastic. Our life's great. We hardly ever fight. We fight, like, twice a year, usually, unless we're on vacation. And then for some reason, when we're on vacation, we argue about everything the whole time. Like, I don't know what that is, but, like, in our real life, we don't argue. And for the most part, I think our relationship is ideal. But yeah, monogamy is something I do have to actively choose every single day to make the dynamic work. For him, like you, it just comes naturally.
Well, it's more just like my brain can't handle a lot of things at once. Maybe it's the ADHD.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll actually talk about that in a second because there's some ADHD theories about monogamy. But yeah, for my boyfriend, monogamy just makes sense to him. Like, that's just what makes sense. He's not a super social person. He knows what he wants. He's a private person. One partner just works for him. That's what works for his brain.
Well, I kind of get, like, obsessed with, not like obsessed, but I'm just like, you're what I'm focusing on right now. Like
hyperfixation.
Like, maybe a little bit, but it's more just like, I want to give you all the attention that I can.
Oh, that's nice.
And I don't know. I feel like if it changed, it would change, but this has always worked for me, and you know, maybe I need to unpack that with a therapist. I don't know.
No, I think it sounds good. I think that makes sense.
Not that you, like I said, it's just a thing.
It's just a thing, yeah. It's neither good nor bad. People have different things that make sense to them. For me, monogamy makes no sense. I feel like I'm a cat that got trained to use a human toilet or something, and that's how I've been in the monogamous relationship for 7.5 years.
People are always like, it's so easy, and I'm like, really? I have never gotten a cat to do anything. Granted, I am allergic to cats, I found out over the pandemic, because my boyfriend at the time, his roommate had a cat, and I thought I had asthma. Every time I was over there, I was like, like, you know, doing the thing where, like, my throat's closing up. Yes. And then during the pandemic, I was like, I don't have asthma anymore. And then I was like, what has changed? I was like, the cat.
The cat.
Yeah, even hairless cats, which are more like dogs,
yeah,
can't really train them to do a lot of stuff.
You can't train them to do I think it's hard. Not
that it's impossible. I don't want the,
No. People train cats. I've seen the videos.
But it's not easy.
It's not easy. But I do feel like, yeah, that's me. I'm like the cat, and I'm like using the handle on the toilet, and I'm like, I'm not sure what this is doing or why I'm doing it, but I was told to do this, and I'm doing it because I want to make this person happy. And that's what I'm doing.
Like the YouTube videos where the cat boops in the toilet, and they do, like, the cat always looks right at the camera, in my mind, when it's doing it.
Yeah. I think they know they want to make you happy, and I think that's why I do it. I'm just like, oh, this is what the thing that makes my partner happy. He told me, so I'm going to do it and hit the flusher. To me, though, there are two reasons why choosing monogamy still presents not problems in my life, but why I'm aware of it. Like, why it's even a thing, even though I love my current boyfriend so much, and we have this, like, pretty ideal relationship, honestly. We have an awesome life together. So there are two things where I'm just like, oh, but this... and the first is that I don't think that I feel jealousy the way a lot of people do.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was, like, more jealous.
Yeah, like, I always said this, and it's true. It's like, I could walk in on my boyfriend, like, having sex with another person, and my reaction would be like, oh, so sorry to intrude. Let me know when you're done. And I would have no feelings about that.
Honestly... I feel, okay, maybe I feel like if that happened to me, I would just be like, oh, like, this is be like, oh, they're not into me like I am them. This is not for, like, I would just be like, oh, excuse me, and just be like,
And then wash your hands of them forever.
Basically wash my hands of the situation. It wouldn't be like super anger. It would just be kind of wash my hands of the situation because... Yes. For me, if I get the vibes that someone does not like me as much as I like them, I cannot.
See, I would never tie somebody being interested in somebody else. I would never tie that to how they feel about me at all. It would never even occur to me that that would have something to do with me.
I would think that unless we had discussed something beforehand, I'd be like,
Right. I would be like, do you guys want to go get food after you're done? I'm hungry and there's a new taco place down the street. Let's all go.
Yeah, I would say, actually, it depends on the situation. It depends on it. It really depends. At least I'm gonna bring some nuance into this.
Yes, I mean, yeah. I personally, though, I would have no emotional feelings of pain or frustration, anything. Like, I don't care what my partners do when I'm not around.
Yeah. Oh, it would depend on who it was with.
Yeah.
If it was like my sister and they had been keeping it a secret, I would be fucking pissed.
Well, I don't like secrets, because when you lie, you make yourself a stranger to me. Like, what's the point of me having a relationship with you if I don't know you? Like, you gotta be honest with me, so I,
But if they were like, I met this really hot celebrity, and I thought I would have a hall pass, because look, it's this a really hot celebrity, I'd be like, think about it. Which is maybe toxic of me.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's toxic. I think that's, like, the big thing about relationships. It's like, there's not one way to do them. There's just what works for you. I think, though, because, like, I don't care what my partners do when I'm not around, I sometimes get confused about why they would care what I do when they're not around. Like, when we're together, I like the idea that it's because this is exactly where we want to be. Like, we're actively choosing each other right now. We're not here because we had nowhere else to go. It feels honest. It feels special. And I would want my partner to, like, go do whatever they want with whoever they want, whenever they want, because that way I know that the time that we're together, that's a choice. There's agency there. It's actively choosing to spend your time with me. And that is, like, so romantic to me, right? Like, you know what the world has to offer, but this is still where you want to be right now. You could be doing anything, and, like, you chose to spend this time with me, and that's just, like, so... Aw, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hopeless romantic vibes. I get that from my dad. So that feels good to me. And I remember, like, one time somebody said that I disliked monogamy because I'm afraid of commitment. And I was like, oh, no, you don't know me at all. My problem is not that I'm afraid of commitment. My problem is that I love commitment and I want to commit to as many people as possible. What are you doing later? I'll commit to you if you're free. Like, I'm like, no, I, like, love you and, like, want to nurture you and honor this so much. Oh. And the second reason for me is that just, like, psychologically, monogamy has always felt really restrictive or controlling, even if my partner's not restrictive or controlling. Have you ever felt that way?
That monogamy is...
Yeah, like it's just like a man telling you what to do?
Not really.
Oh, God. See?
But it depends on the person.
Right.
And also, like, I'd like to think that, I mean, I've had a couple terrible boyfriends, but I'd like to think in general, like, I don't, if someone was like, we must be monogamous, I'd be like, for you, like right now it's like, I choose this.
Right.
But it's like, it really depends on the situation. But, like, I don't think of, like, to me, I'm just like, it's not like right now I'm like, oh, well, yeah, my brain likes it.
Right. Yeah, like my current boyfriend, obviously not controlling or restrictive in the least. He just set a boundary for his comfort that he's been clear on. We've communicated about it openly and regularly. Totally fine. Totally normal. Totally great way to be in a relationship. But still in the back of my head, there's this idea that there's something I couldn't do if I wanted to. And that like just drives me batty. And I think it has a like combination to do with like my impulse control issues and my hatred of patriarchy. So this is where the ADHD thing comes in, which I think will be interesting. All right, so they've actually found that people with ADHD, like me and Kenna, tend to be more interested in open relationships than people without ADHD. And it's not because of the ADHD that non-monogamy feels like more correct for me, obviously, but it does work with how my brain personally handles ADHD. Like, I tend to live very much in the moment. I have major object impermanence. Like, I compartmentalize my relationships. I don't think about what's happening like somewhere else when I'm in a moment. Like when I'm somewhere doing something, that's the only thing that exists. Like nothing else in space or time exists than what I'm doing. So like I don't even think about what somebody I like is doing or who they're with or whatever. It doesn't matter to me at all. And that means that I can really compartmentalize my interactions with other people too. And when I'm with somebody again, be really excited to see them, give them my all, you know. And some ADHDers, though, are different, which I feel like maybe like you kind of, like some people get overwhelmed with the thought of scheduling more than one romantic partner.
Oh, that is literally like, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like too much, or they like hyper focus on someone. They just prefer monogamy instead because otherwise it feels like too many tasks to accomplish that they get overwhelmed by.
Yes, and I like stability, and I like that I know that the same person is there.
Yes.
And it's like, I don't mean it to be like the person is like, you know, who I'm dating is like an object, but it's like,
no,
in terms of like relationship style.
Yes. I think the person you're dating is awesome because the other night that was not the night that was the Sex and the City night, we were at a neighborhood bar and he came and picked us up and he brought me vegan Taco Bell. So yes. He is a 10 out of 10. And then my boyfriend was like, wow, I'm losing the boyfriend game. Like I need to I need to do something for the friend group to be the best boyfriend of the friend group now. So healthy competition is good for men. It makes them rise to the occasion. But no, on the whole, people with ADHD are still more likely than like the general public to be open to non-monogamy, which I thought was interesting. But then that second thing, which is like where it comes to the patriarchy, how I just like personally resent the idea that any man could ever have a say in anything I do with my body. And I'm bisexual, so I date a lot of men. They just keep showing up, so that's why. It's not like I'm actively choosing them or preferring them. They just come. They show up everywhere. They're just... You can't, everywhere you look, there's a man. Anyway, so this idea that a man should get to have like boundaries that affect what I do, it's like politically infuriating to me, even though in the context of a romantic relationship, yes, men should definitely be allowed to have boundaries, and being a man who wants monogamy does not mean you are controlling your partner. Like, I know that 100%. I know that rationally. But inside, still, just part of me gets inherently defiant, and I'm like, don't tell me what to do, Brad. You know? Yeah. Like, I just can't shake it. It's like a political anger deep inside of me. But yeah, I think all of this, you know, when I think about like my relationship with non-monogamy, it's not about other people, right? Like, I think society has this like nympho idea of non-monogamous people where they're just like horny on Maine 24/7 and Maine is their life, you know? And I'm sure we've all met maybe one person like that. But I think the reality is that for a lot of people, being non-monogamous is hardly about, you know, horniness at all. Like, for lots of people, I think it's about their brains and how they conceive of themselves as like independent entities moving through the world and like taking accountability for their relationships with other people and being very intentional about them. Like, I just knew I never wanted to wake up one day and feel like I'd become someone's wife. Mm-hmm. That was really important to me. But yeah, to a lot of people, being someone's wife sounds like a dream come true.
Yeah.
Some people want to be wives. So whatever. In my personal life, I've been feeling stressed about monogamy lately. And so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for us to do a whole episode about it. So Today's whole episode is indeed about monogamy.
Wow.
I know sometimes I do a curveball and I change up the topic, but no, we just went into it.
I was waiting, and you're like, and today we talk about penguins. And
yes.
I'm like, okay.
Well, some of the animals, they are more monogamous than others, and birds, spoiler alert for later in the episode, birds do have a tendency to be more monogamous than mammals.
I do like birds.
Yeah, birds are cool. We're bird people.
Yeah, I would have a bird, but I think that it would drive my boyfriend up the wall.
Yeah, I would have a bird, but I think my dachshund would try to hunt it.
Yeah, I don't know if Mo would like a bird.
No, I think Mo would want to eat a bird.
Also, I did live... My roommate had a bird for years. She had a bird for almost 20 years. And she... every time we'd hang out, if we were living together or I was over at her house, we'd start talking louder and louder to each other. And sometimes we'd just be yelling at each other for no reason. And I realized it was because the bird was talking in the background, like... as loud as... So it would keep getting louder and louder. And we would keep getting louder and louder subconsciously. And it was a whole mess.
The bird just wanted to be in on your conversation.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
And then we'd be like, Birdie, please just stop.
Okay, so Kenna, not talking about birds, talking about monogamy. How do you define monogamy?
I mean, I would think of it as being with one partner. Oh gosh, that's hard. Because I'd be like, one partner romantically and... I mean, and like... Physically, or like what do you call it? Like kind of having like a household together.
Oh, okay. So if you couldn't be in a monogamous relationship not living with someone?
Oh, I guess you could. You know, but I think of like either way.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah, there are a few different definitions floating around. Like some people define it only by sexual relationships. Some include emotional relationships, some combo of both. Oxford Dictionary says it's the practice or state of being married to one person at a time, but also could be the practice or state of having a sexual relationship with only one partner. So those are like neither of those has like emotions involved. And honestly, the definition that I like the most is from WebMD, which like who would have thought WebMD just really came through on this definition.
When they're not telling everybody that they have...
the definition was just monogamy is cancer. Just kidding. No. I feel like somebody recently was like, yeah, I had this malady and I went on WebMD and WebMD just did the thing it does where it told me it was cancer. Was it maybe somebody in the office?
That was me.
It was you. It was you.
Like, yeah, it was like...
It was the headaches, right?
I had night sweats. Yes. And I realized it was because I had been wearing really hot pajamas.
Oh, not cancer. Okay. Congratulations. So WebMD said monogamy is a relationship with only one partner at a time rather than multiple partners. A monogamous relationship can be sexual or emotional, but usually it's both. And I was like, yes, that makes sense to me. And I think this is really interesting though, because what is an emotional relationship? That could be so many things. It's not very cut and dry.
Yeah, I feel like you could have a romantic relationship with someone that is not sexual.
Right, you totally could. And you could have a sexual relationship with somebody that's not romantic, but I feel like people would obviously see the sexual relationship and be like, okay, that's clearly not monogamy. But like, what's an emotional relationship? Could it be, like, what's the difference between just having a friendship, because you have emotional connections to your friends, or having like a romantic emotional relationship that doesn't include anything physical? I
definitely have had friendships that seemed very romantic. Like I was watching that show Nana and I was like, I feel like I have had friendships that are like it's not sexual, but it's like very, very close and like almost like romantic.
Yeah, like codependent to a point of being romantic, because I've definitely been in a few of those.
I don't know about maybe, I don't know.
I had like one friendship that was super, super codependent, and it was so, like, we were so into each other as friends that we literally tried to make out to be like, baby, we do want to date. There was no physical attraction whatsoever, and it was the worst makeout session of my life. And we were both like, nope, just friends, just real weird friends.
Felt like you were like making out with a dog.
It was just so weird. And we were like, oh. So that was when I was in high school. You know, it happens. But yeah, I just think that it's interesting because I think that people have different ideas about what is monogamy, because people have different ideas about what cheating would be. And that's how you know people have different ideas about what monogamy is.
Yeah, because some people, like some people would be like, if you watch porn, you're cheating.
Right, exactly. And actually, I thought maybe we could do a little quiz about what you, Kenna, consider cheating.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, so, like, this is going to be 15 things what you would or would not consider cheating in the context of a monogamous relationship.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, I feel like this whole episode is going to make me look terrible.
No! Are you kidding? Okay, are you ready?
Okay.
All right, number 1. Is it cheating if your partner likes their ex's picture on Instagram?
No.
Okay, I also say no. 54% of people polled said no, but 17% said yes.
I mean, to me, it's like, if they still talk to their ex and are friends with them, like, so what? Like, that's probably... I have exes that are still some of my best friends.
I met some of your exes in Portland. They were delightful.
Yeah.
And you met one of my exes in Portland. Also delightful.
So, no, I would not consider that cheating.
No, I also would not. 29% of people say it would depend.
I mean, maybe if they're like, I hate them, like, blah, 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 and then they liked one of their pictures, I'd be like... What?
And it was like a bikini pic or something.
And I would be like, everything fine? But I wouldn't consider that cheating.
No, I wouldn't either. Okay, number 2. Is it cheating if your partner is messaging people on dating apps?
I guess it would be like, what if we like discussed it and I was like in beforehand, but like if we hadn't said anything, I would be like, I guess not, because we haven't said anything.
I would definitely say that's cheating to me. And 85% of people also would say it's cheating.
Wow, I'm the one being like, meh.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what if they're just bored?
I love that. I mean, like, I wouldn't care if they were doing it, but I would still be like, if we're doing monogamy, I don't think messaging people on dating apps is monogamy.
The way, okay, like, to me, also nuanced, it depends. So I'm going to go with not automatically yes.
Okay. I feel like, yeah, if you're actively trying to pursue situations with people outside of the scope of our monogamous relationship, it would definitely be a violation of monogamy.
Well, I would also want to know because I don't want to get like an STD.
Well, I was going to say if it's an open relationship, just like Wednesday's date night, go for it, do whatever you want. We'll use condoms. We're good. You know?
Yeah, but if it hasn't been discussed or it is like clearly a monogamous relationship, I don't know.
To me, it's a hard cheat.
Really?
It's
okay,
a hard
maybe
cheat
I'm
to
just
me.
like, I feel like I approach relationships different.
No, that's okay. I obviously do too, so it is totally fine. That's the point of this exercise, though, is to point out that people have different ideas about what is or isn't monogamy and cheating.
I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, okay, all right. So the third one. Is it cheating if your partner does not delete a dating app from their phone but says they don't use it?
No. My boyfriend also has ADHD. He doesn't remember shit.
That's what I was going to say. This is like a hard one for me because I could definitely see myself just forgetting to delete an app off my phone and then my partner seeing it and be like, hey, I thought we said monogamy. And then I'm like, I'm just stupid. Like,
I will preface that, like, I love him. Both of our memory. He actually has a better memory than me.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, we have different memory styles. Mm-hmm. He has long-term memory. Like, he remembers everything I tell him. But he won't remember where he put a lighter.
Right.
So I could definitely see him being like, I literally didn't know that was on my phone.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. So 45% of people, though, say if you have a dating app on your phone, it is cheating. And 23% say it's not, and 32% say it depends. So I think I'd fall into the it depends category.
I'm going to go with a hard no.
Wow. Okay. All right. Number 4. Is it cheating if your partner flirts with a stranger?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So I am a flirty, obnoxious person. I flirt with, like, everybody. I think funny in our office, I think we all just flirt with each other all day.
Yeah, I also think that flirting can be, like, a little gendered sometimes.
Yes.
Because people sometimes, like, think that I'm being flirty when I'm like, I am just, like, acting nice so this dude doesn't scream at me.
Right, like I'm just being nice and fun and I can't help that I'm charming.
Yeah, or even like sometimes like where you're just like, I don't know, for me sometimes like I've worked in places where I'm like, like, you know, like you put on like your hostess, you know, vibe.
Yes.
Because you're, you know, so I'm just saying like also like sometimes like people think that if you're nice like and like
feminine, yeah.
Like you're like automatically flirting and you're like literally I'm just being like nice.
Yes, this is what I said exactly. I was like, look, people have different communication styles. Like I know lots of people who are like this. I feel like sometimes I'm like this. I don't mean it. I'm not trying to get anything out of it. I'm just having fun and talking to somebody, and I like silly banter. And some people interpret that to be flirting.
Yeah. So. Or people think that we are silly. Yeah. We are silly bitches.
We are silly bitches. And I want to be able to be a silly bitch to strangers in public without people demonizing it. So yeah, I would say flirting with a stranger is not cheating, depending on your personality type. Like, I think it would be weirder for my boyfriend to flirt with a stranger than me, because he just doesn't talk to, like, anybody, so he would have to go out of his way to do it.
I mean, if my boyfriend grabbed someone's butt, I would be like, what the fuck?
Oh, that's like assault.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, but, yeah. You know, to me, I'm going with flirting as in talking.
Yeah, just like, talking.
Body language, no touchy-feely.
Yeah. I feel like, though, he's probably watched me do what people would consider flirting with, like, 100 strangers, but it's actually just me having fun. Or even sometimes trying to be a good wing woman for my friend. Like, my friend is single and she likes a guy, and I'm like, I'll go handle his buddy, get him out of there. But it's like, I am not doing this with the intention of this going anywhere. I'm just trying to set my friend up with your buddy.
I have definitely flirted being the wing woman.
Right. See, so I don't think that that's cheating, because sometimes flirting is just a communication style that can be strategic.
Yeah, and I love being the assist.
Right.
I'm like the Dennis Rodman of wingmen.
Yes, same. So yeah, I would say it depends on your intentions, and it's really hard to know somebody's intentions. So I would just default to no. I would just default to flirting is not cheating.
No, it's not.
So on this one, 47% of people polled said flirting is always cheating.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. And 35% said it depends on how much they're flirting. And 18% were like us and said, no, it's just harmless fun.
Yeah, I'd say it's just harmless.
Okay, number 5. Is it cheating if your partner sleeps in the same bed as someone else?
No.
This is also a hard no to me. Like, if they have sex, obviously, yeah, that would violate monogamy. But just sleeping?
Again, depends on the situation. What if, you were out with... What if there was an emergency? What if it was cold? What if blah, blah, blah?
I mean, the way I think about it is, I've lived in some party houses. I've been to a lot of parties. People party and end up crashing next to each other all the time. It's the safer thing to do than trying to drive home drunk.
Yeah.
So I've definitely been at parties and been like, I'm too drunk and I can't get an Uber, and then just gone to whoever's house it is and been like, I'm going to crash in your bed for a few hours till I'm sober enough to drive home. And when I've gone in there have been other people at the party doing the same thing, and I just sleep next to them. And it's fine.
Okay.
And I'm just like, hey, it's Madeline. And they're like, what's up? And then we're just,
conked out.
Yeah, it's not, that could be a logistical issue. So 38% of people, though, polled said yes, sleeping in the same bed as someone else is cheating.
It's interesting to me that has less percentage of people than flirting.
Yes.
They're like, flirting, no. Sleeping in the same bed, okay.
Well, 48% did say that it depends on who the person is you're sleeping next to.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, if it's maybe that's where jealousy comes into play. Like, a hottie?
Yeah. If they're super hot, does that make a difference to you?
Depends on how hot.
If they're the hottest person you've ever seen in your life,
then I'm kind of just meh. Because, the medium hotness is where...
Oh, because it's attainable.
If it's the hottest celebrity. I'm thinking of
Yeah, for my boyfriend, it would be Jessica Alba. That's his celebrity crush.
Oh, for mine, it is some 80s actress. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's always the lady who's the main lead in Possession, and everyone's she's so hot. Or right now, the girl from White Lotus.
Oh yeah, Lucia. That's the hottest person I've ever seen in my life. That's she has the same Doc Martens as me too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we're obsessed with her. But yeah, so...
Did you like him like a 10 hot, not worried?
Yeah. 7
hot, worried.
Yeah. I get it. So 14% of people did say that sleeping in the same bed as someone not just that act on its own is not a violation of monogamy, not cheating. So that's where I would fall. I would say no, hard line, never. But number 6, okay. If your partner sends a nude to someone else, is that cheating?
Ooh, a nude.
Yeah. I say yes 100%. I'm like, that is clearly...
Huh. Do you I'm like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't imagine Wait.
I could not imagine him doing it at all, your boyfriend.
If he did, I would be like... I would just be like, you are a different person than I thought. I don't even know if this is cheating because you're a different person.
Right.
So, but because I was just like, I've never dated people who, actually, that's not true. I have dated people who would totally.
Well, when I first started dating my boyfriend, I was like, have you ever sent a dick pic to someone? And he's like, no. And then he goes, well, wait, once, but it wasn't my dick. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I was texting with somebody, we were making jokes about dick pics, and then I just Googled dick pic and sent somebody just a random dick pic. But it made sense in the context of the conversation. And I'm like, this makes sense for you, actually.
I want to say it depends, but I think I'm going to have to go with yeah.
Yeah, I think sending someone else a naked picture of you, I think that's...
It goes, but to me, it's just like, it's hard to just call it cheating because to me, I'm just like, was this a consensual dick pic?
That would be the thing. But wait, now that I'm thinking about it, like, I've had friends send me pictures of them and they're naked in the picture, but it's not supposed to be sexy. They're just like, it's 110 degrees in Los Angeles and everybody is sweating, so they're naked at their house and then their dog did a cute thing. So I guess there is a circumstance under which a person could send a non-sexy naked picture, or a picture where they happen to be naked, and that would be fine. But I think a nude, specifically calling it that,
is intentionally sexy.
It's a sexualized naked photo. It's not just like, I'm naked in here.
I would say a nude, yes.
Okay, I agree.
A naked picture, not necessarily. But
I agree completely.
Nude,
different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different thing.
Different thing. Yes. Okay, so number 7. If your partner is texting their ex, Kenna, is that cheating?
No.
Yeah, if this is cheating, I would have never been in a monogamous relationship in my life because I stay in contact with most of my exes. So I would say definitely not cheating.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like my exes feel like my brothers.
Right.
Sometimes.
Love my exes, have complex and rich relationships with them based on mutual care and compassion to varying degrees depending on who they are.
It just didn't work out. So very normal to me that I would be texting them and talking to them. And I feel like also after I see an ex, I'm always like, oh my God, that's right, you're so cool. And then like there's always a period of time for like maybe 2 months after seeing them where I'm texting them a lot. Like, what's going on with this? This thing you told me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, Yeah, it feels like my sister because like she's known me almost my entire life because I'm the older sister. But, like, even though it's so funny because we live in the same city, but we don't see each other all the time.
That's true.
And, like, but she's like, oh, remember that time when, like, me and mom and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah. Or, like, I'll talk to one of my exes and be like, remember that time when me and your mom, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just seems like, they knew me back in it seems like.
Familial community vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, too, completely. So out of this, only 19% of survey respondents said yes, texting your ex is cheating. 6% said no, and 30% said it depends on if they keep it a secret, and 45% said it depends on what they're talking about.
I don't think they need to. To me, it's just like, I don't need to know that information. I don't need to know who they're texting.
I mean, I guess the thing about, like, it depends on what they're talking about makes sense to me.
The nudes.
Yeah. If you're texting nudes, yeah, then that's, But just talking, I'm like.
But even now, I'm like, what if they're okay.
Okay.
What if they're sending their ex nudes because they're like, they're reminiscent, or they're like, do I look hot naked for my girlfriend? And then the ex is like, yeah,
you should pose like this though, or like, put on this.
You should send this. What if they're practicing with their ex who they're friends with to send you a nude?
I mean, I would say that's weird, but I don't think it's weird because my friends send me their nudes first before they send them to people they're talking to, and they're like, does this look good? So I think that is a thing you do with your friends. People do that. So
do you like how I'm making up all these weird hypotheticals that probably don't happen, like, very often?
They might, honestly.
I am a nuance queen.
Yeah, it is nuanced. I also feel like just talking, like, even if you're having, like, a really emotional, intense, deep conversation with your ex, like I have these conversations with some of my exes. One in particular is always like, oh, like, I just remembered this fucked up thing I did to you. Like, I am so sorry. Like, he's always trying to make amends for the wrongs in our relationship, and he struggles with sobriety, whatever. So there are varying degrees of, like, I don't know if it's like 12-steppy, but sometimes people in 12-step programs will want to make amends, whatever the case. I do end up having emotionally intense and charged conversations with my exes sometimes that are based in the past. Where it's like, when this happened, when you did this to me, it made me feel this way, and I've struggled with it for this reason. Or people apologizing, being like, I just realized I did this fucked up thing to you, and I'm so sorry. And I don't think that is cheating either, but it is a private conversation that I'm like, I'm not going to air our shit out to other people you don't know. I'm not going to air our shit out to my current boyfriend because that feels like a violation of your trust. But, like, also, there's nothing wrong happening here, even if it is emotionally charged, because it's like, you're apologizing, you're making amends, or we're coming to, like, an understanding about, like, a wrong that occurred.
Yeah, like, I don't need to tell my boyfriend or whoever I'm dating, like, anything like that to me.
Right. I feel like it kind of, at a certain point, it violates the trust and privacy of the other person.
Yeah, like, to me, that's why I'm just like, I don't want to look at your texts.
Yeah.
When I was younger, like really young, I did look at an ex's text and I felt incredibly, incredibly guilty and shameful. And I still think about how nasty it felt.
Yeah, I just think that, like...
And I didn't do it really, like, out... It was, like, one of those things that, like, kind of popped up. And I was just like, what is this? And I felt so... This was back in the flip phone days. So this is how long ago it was.
I think that, like, in a relationship, to me, definitely, like, I allow a lot of space for my partner to have other complex relationships with people who are in their life or who have been in their life before. And I accept that those complex relationships could include things like healing from your past, taking accountability, having candid conversations, you know, and I think those things are good for personal growth and they're not horny.
Yeah, and I think privacy is something you should always afford everybody.
I think so too.
Like, I you know, I think that privacy is, like, I value it.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so number 8, if your partner meets up with their ex, is that cheating?
No.
No, I also... very, very much. That's a no to me. For this survey, 21% of respondents, though, did say yes no matter what. And only 5% said no.
What if your ex was, like, married and they have to meet up to discuss, like, the kids or something?
I don't know.
Then, like, because sometimes, like, you have to meet up with them.
Your ex,
and then you're like, you're cheating. You have to meet them. Like, that's...
Well, some people might think that. 25% said that it depends if they tell you about it. And 49%, the most common response is it depends what they do when they meet up. And I think that actually probably I'm in that last one. I'm in the 49% camp. You can catch up on old days. You can make amends for your relationship. You can hang out like friends. None of that's going to be cheating. But if you, like, make out with them, then yeah, that's cheating, right?
Yeah, I would say, like, to me, I feel like we're leading up to, like, I'm just like, depends.
Depends on what they're... To me, it depends on what they're doing.
I'm like, what if they're just making out for old time's sake?
You'd be okay with that?
If I don't know, I don't care.
Oh, okay, that's
I'm not
interesting.
There.
Okay, that's how I feel. All right. So number 9, is it cheating if your partner is flirty texting someone else?
No.
Okay, 74% of people said yes, and 20% said it depends. I think I'm in the it depends camp. Because, like, if you're flirting with the intention of doing more, I think yes. If you're just being flirty but don't expect it to end in you physically being with somebody else while you're in a monogamous relationship, then no, I don't think it's cheating.
I don't think it is.
I love that. Okay, number 10, is kissing someone else cheating?
Not necessarily.
Wow. Okay, this is interesting
no.
to me because I've been watching White Lotus. I also think it could go either way. So no spoilers. I'm not going to do anything too specific.
But we're airing it before
the finale. I have not seen the finale.
So
but
there will be no spoilers.
Okay, I'm just going to say general. If the only opportunity there was for you to kiss someone and you kiss, then yes, I think that's cheating. But if the opportunity was there to do more, like to have sex, and you kiss once and you go, no, I can't do this, it's wrong, then I don't think you cheated.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a gray area, I think. But 91% of respondents say it is always yes cheating to kiss somebody, and only 7% said that it depends. And 2% said it's not.
I guess technically I'm in depends, but I think more I would be like, it's not.
It's not a big deal.
Like kissing.
Yeah.
Like,
what about like making out? Does that make it different to you if it's just one kiss versus a lot of kissing?
I guess I'm going to have to go with it depends, but like my initial reaction is no, because, you know, as we're saying, maybe my definition of cheating is different.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Everybody's is. Also, does it matter if they're on drugs or drunk? If someone's drunk or on drugs, I'm like, that's not cheating. You are out of your fucking mind.
I'm kind of like, you know, or like, I know I keep saying celebrities, but like, I feel like I'm always like, hall pass.
Hall pass for celebrities. That's your thing.
Nathan Fielder.
Oh. You're gonna have to compete with like every woman in Los Angeles for that one.
Oh, for fucking sure.
Yeah.
Okay, my theory. Actually, this was my boyfriend's theory, so I got it.
Okay.
Who Kim Kardashian should date next? Nathan Fielder.
I mean, it sounds unhinged, but also the more you think about it, the more it makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
He is like more Pete Davidson than Pete Davidson.
Nathan Fielder is the new Pete Davidson.
I think so. I could see that.
Honestly, I think that Pete Davidson is over.
And it's all about Nathan Fielder now.
It's all about Nathan Fielder.
I think Nathan Fielder could present a little sluttier, if I'm being honest.
And the dad from White Lotus, who was in Sopranos.
Oh, yeah. That guy's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, throughout the years.
Yes. Okay.
So,
I remember who he was in Sopranos.
Christopher.
Whoa. He has been hot throughout the years.
So, I guess I'm saying celebrities.
Celebrities you can kiss. If you are dating Kenna, you're in a monogamous relationship, you can kiss celebrities. That's fine.
Yeah.
Kenna will be impressed if you manage to pull it off.
Because I'm just like, that's a great story.
It is a great story. I also am a fan of people doing things for the story.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, that's not, to me, that would not be cheating. But my boyfriend was like, he's like, but if you do it with Nathan Fielder, he's like, I will burn down his house.
Oh, okay. I think that's fair too. I love that.
He was joking when he said, but he said it so seriously at first. I was like, whoa, this
fair
is a
warning,
science.
Nathan Fielder, if you're listening to this, you can have the forbidden fruit that is kissing Kenna if you're willing to risk your home being arsoned. Is arsoned a verb? Can you do that? Can you arson something? I don't think that's
Maybe he was serious, but adds an element of danger.
It's danger.
If you are listening, it'll be exciting.
I think it makes it even hotter, for Nathan Fielder.
Do you like how this whole thing was like me just leading up to, I am allowed to make out with Nathan Fielder.
And everyone needs to know to get this message to
and
Nathan
no
Fielder.
one will stop me.
Okay. Are you ready for the next one? Number 11. We're almost through. Is it cheating to watch porn?
No.
No, I say hard line. No, not in any circumstances. But then I said that, but then I was like, wait, what if you're like in love with a person from your past still and you only watch porn where people look just like that person?
Who cares?
Okay, that's pretty cool. I would be like, I think this might be cheating vibes, but also that's very nuanced and super extreme and not, I think, a common situation.
I'm not going to police people's thoughts because thoughts are weird.
Thoughts are weird. You're right.
And I say this because, you know how, like, they're like, if you don't think of a pink elephant, you're going to think of a pink elephant.
Right.
How are I'm just going to say, like, I don't want to know people's thoughts, and I'm not going to police them. And as long as you keep that shit to yourself, I do not care.
Okay, well, it looks like this is the one where we're the most normal because 79% of people agree with us that watching porn is not cheating.
No.
But I'm surprised it's not more. 21% of people would have a problem with you watching porn in a relationship.
Why?
I don't know.
guess, like, you know what? I hear this actually a lot from people.
It's pretty interesting.
It's like, actually more common than you would think. And, like, I get it if you're not comfortable with the idea of watching porn for any number of reasons. Like, you don't have, it's not a thing that you have to do. But, or, like, if you're against, like, whatever. However, I just think it's weird to police. I think that's weird. I think that's a whole other weird.
Yeah, that's policing a private time.
I think that I don't want to police anyone's private time. You can do whatever I do not shame people for what they are into as long as it does not hurt anybody else.
Right. Okay, so number 12. Is it cheating to dance with someone else when you're out?
No.
I also said no, hard line, this would never be cheating, but only 26% of people agree with us.
Why?
Most, 54%, say it depends on the type of dancing.
If you are drunk, you're going to dance with whoever.
Yeah, also, like, I have lots of friends who just dance really well, and dancing well sometimes means dancing super slutty.
And sometimes, like, if you're a good dancer, other good dancers will come dance next to you, and you don't have a choice.
You cannot control
that. You do not have a choice of who that person is.
Dancing is a public activity.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So we are rare for that one, apparently. But yes, I agree with you, Kenna, not cheating. Okay, number 13. Is it cheating to hold hands with someone else?
No.
No, I also say no. I hold hands with people all the time. I was holding Fernanda's hand the other night while we were walking down the road.
Yeah, we were walking arm in arm.
Yes, exactly.
Which felt nice. Usually, I am not a touchy-feely person. I do not like to, like, as a kid, could not get me to hug people.
No, I think I was actually clutching Fernanda's hand for stability while she walked down the street very drunk later in the night. So it wasn't as, I remember you guys had a cute elbow thing. I was more like, I got you, I'm supporting you, we're vertical, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, I think that just, some people are just very physically affectionate with other people.
Some people are really touchy-feely, and I am not. So I respect that some people are.
Same.
Because, like, I am usually only touchy-feely with, like, literally, like, the one person I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm not like I think that I am really comfortable in space. Like, I will be, like, close with people, and I'll, like, grab people's hands and things like that because I'm intense. But I feel like I'm not like some people like hug and hold a lot or like sleep in bed with their friends a lot. Like I don't do that a lot, but I know other people do.
Yeah, like I'm usually just not super comfortable with it because I have really, really sensitive skin. This is like, but like, you know, like I have the thing where like you touch your skin and it turns red.
Right.
So anyone who touches me, it's going to leave like a fingerprint or like,
yes.
I turn hot red anytime anyone touches me. So maybe that's it.
I think what I tend to do is I do the sit and clutch. Like if I haven't seen you in a while or if you're telling me something and we're in a place that's loud, I'll sit really close to you and I'll grab your arms and your hands and I'll clutch them and then I'll lean in close so I can hear what you're saying to me. And like that's kind of a form of hand holding. It's like, oh yes, my friend, we're here engaged in conversation. I am present with you. And there is a physical touch involved.
Yeah, and I've had platonic moments that may have appeared to the outside to be romantic, but to me they were completely platonic.
Right. Yes. I thought about that actually when we were in Portland because I was talking to my ex about something really, really, really intense, like a trauma they had experienced. And I was like putting my arms on that or my hands on their arms as like comfort because they were like we were talking about this really fucked up thing they went through. And I'm like, oh yeah, like if you saw this from the outside, you'd be like, have no clue what was going on. Like but it's like, also this person's disclosing like the most fucked up thing they've ever been through in their life to me. And I'm like holding them like a friend being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And like, you can't judge. You can't gauge it. So I would say no. Kenna says no, but only 23% of people would agree with us on the no. 39% of people say it depends. And 38% said yes, holding hands with someone is cheating.
I mean, even if the intent, I feel like people rarely, I mean, maybe if you're like really hornily holding hands.
How do you hornily hold a hand? So like, I don't think this is a horny activity. I think
for me, like cheating is a horny activity.
It is a horny activity.
It's okay. Like in legalese, you know how like you have to prove intent. Mm-hmm. I think that with cheating, you have to prove intent, and especially intent, not either to harm or malicious. Neglect.
Oh, okay.
Harm or neglect. To me, it's like, I think of it more in like a legalese style thing. And like, maybe I would make a good divorce lawyer.
Maybe you would. Okay, number 14. Is it cheating if your partner tells someone else that they love them?
I would say not necessarily.
I would actually say 100% no, because I tell people I love them all the time. I tell my exes that I love them. It's true. Like, I will always love them.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to go with, like, an automatic no. But if someone was very hornily saying, I love you.
I fucking love you.
But I was thinking about, like, Pen 15, when they go into the closet with the boy.
Oh, yes.
And he's like, I love you. And I'm like, people do that shit all the time. It doesn't mean any, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I'm going to go with a no. I'm going to change my answer to a hard no.
I'm also a hard no. And again, to me, monogamy is choosing to stay with your current partner no matter who else you love and not violating whatever boundaries your partner set up in the process. So telling someone you love them, expressing your feelings about somebody, that's complicated. And that doesn't necessarily violate any boundaries. That's just...
And I guess it's I'm doing it from my end of what I would consider. I guess I wouldn't know what the other, you know, you can't
know somebody's intentions, right?
Unless you have like the firm, I'm going to go with intent of harm or neglect.
Yes.
Right here.
Okay. Well, I go hard no, and only 6% of people agreed with me. You're doing it depends is kind of yours.
I'm going to say no.
Oh, okay. So you're with me in the 6%.
Yeah.
Well, for the people who said it depends, that was 24% of respondents. A full 70% of respondents said yes, telling someone else that you love them is cheating, no matter what.
Yeah, I'm going to go, actually, I go with a hard no. Doesn't, even if someone was like, I love you, it doesn't mean that they're going to, like, get together and have sex and have this other...
It could also be like, I love you, but I'm choosing my partner.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yes. I once had a conversation like that with somebody where I was like, I'm into you. And they were like, I love you. I'll always love you, but I'm with this person, so no. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit. And that was them respecting their relationship by telling me that they love me. That was part of them being loyal to their partner.
Yeah. And I think that, like, the way that we think of, like, romantic love now is kind of skewed in, like, by, like, books and movies where it's just, like, one person who you feel all the feelings for and there's no other... It's all... what is it? The Notebook.
Right.
Which I have actually never seen it.
I've never seen it, no. But it feels like The Notebook.
I have no desire to see that movie.
Me neither. You wouldn't hornily watch The Notebook?
No!
Okay, so here's the last one. Kenna, is it cheating if your partner has sex with someone else?
Yes.
Yes, I say yes. I say that is very obviously the big one. That is definitely cheating. 94% of people say yes. 4% of people say it depends, and 2% said no.
Okay, I'm going to say it depends on, I mean, if you're okay with it. Like,
well, I mean, this is all in the context of a monogamous relationship.
Oh, in the context of a monogamous relationship. Yeah, I mean, but what if it's like, I don't know. There could be situations.
There could be. I think, though, that would always violate the boundaries of a monogamous relationship.
What if it's like their job, though?
Okay, that is totally true. That's different. Like, if you're a sex worker and that's just like, well, this is my job. This isn't like a relationship. Yeah, I'm not interested in this person. So I guess you're right.
I would say caveat, like, for me, and yes, asterisk, unless it's their job.
Yes. No, that is actually a really good asterisk. I agree with that. So those were our 15. And these are all sorts of things that people have varying ideas about, like whether or not they fall under the header of cheating. So, for example, some people might say having online affairs where you just talk to somebody on the internet in an emotionally intense way is cheating. To me, though, my college boyfriend had an online girlfriend the whole time we were together. I never considered that cheating. When we first started dating, he told me, like, hey, I've been talking to this girl on the internet since I was, like, 13. I really like her. I don't want to stop talking to her. Are you comfortable with this? And I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. And it turned out that a few years after we broke up, they met for the first time in real life in a different country, and they fell like instantly in love. And today they are married. And they are a great couple, and they work out awesome.
I was going to be like, was she real?
She was real. She was real, and they're married, and they have a great life, and I'm still friends with him, and I think that is the coolest story ever, and I don't think it was cheating that he talked to her while we were together. I think that's just, like, one of those, like, wild life things you never could have anticipated.
Life is weird, man.
Life is weird, and he knew. He's like, there's just something here that I don't want to walk away from completely, and I was like, yeah, for sure, I don't care, and it ended up being a good instinct on his part. So, you know, I think, like, the most interesting thing to me is that if you're in a monogamous relationship with somebody, you still need to take time to define what monogamy is to both of you. Like, your idea of monogamy might be totally different than somebody else's. But it does feel like most people would agree that a monogamous relationship is one where you don't have sex with or kiss other people. You're not currently talking to people on dating apps. You're not sending nudes to other people. You're not sending flirty texts to other people. You're not telling other people you love them. And you're not flirting with strangers. My definition would be a little different than that. But those are the most common
I think my big ones would be like the sex and the nudes. But I just find nudes in poor taste.
I just think unless someone asks, you don't send them. Someone has to ask.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
yes.
Nudes.
Unsolicited, bad.
Always bad. And also just like, if you're sending them to me, it's like, oh, well, that's like, you're gonna do it. If you're sending a horny nude.
Yes.
Not a just like, look at this mole.
Yes. A non-sexual nude. Does this look like cancer? It's a cancer-themed episode. I'm so sorry. Also, though, speaking of cancer, I think this is my 3rd year, starting in January, of not having any precancerous cells in my body. Ooh. I know, it's exciting. Okay, anyway, so moving on from all of that, we have to, like, I feel like talk about the history of monogamy a little bit, but I'm not going to go into, like, a lot of details about it. But it is interesting, and I feel like we touched on this a little bit on our episode about, like, love and dating. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when we talked about how getting in the sack with someone, they would literally put people in sacks in bed together so they couldn't actually have sex, but they could rub up on each other a little before getting married? Do you remember this? We talked about this.
No, my memory's so bad.
Oh, it's a wild episode.
But I love that. Like, because you're like, yeah, I'm getting a sack with someone. It actually means you're not doing it.
No, you are literally in a fucking sack. You cannot feel shit.
You're just kind of humping.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well,
which could be fun.
It could be totally fun. That's probably fetish content for somebody, and we support it.
Yeah.
We support it. So there's this evolutionary anthropologist at the University College London named Kit Opie, who talks kind of about the history of monogamy. And Kit Opie says, the modern monogamous culture has only been around for around 1,000 years. And in fact, our anthropological record indicates that 85% of human societies have historically been non-monogamous. And today, Professor Roger Rubin's research shows that only 43 out of 238 societies across the world are wholly monogamous. Though it's worth noting that in societies where people do have multiple partners, lots of people do still choose monogamy.
Interesting.
If that makes sense. So you might have a society that's not fully monogamous, but obviously there are some monogamous people within that society.
And are they saying monogamous as in marriage or partners?
Partners. One partner. So you might have a society that's non-monogamous and that people get married, but then they have like a little something on the side,
like I think of like 17th century France where you have like a wife and a mistress.
Right, exactly. Or people who have multiple wives. I feel like I have like a hot take in like the white Western feminist world, at least, where I am not offended by men having multiple wives at all, because I think that that's like a cultural thing. And I actually saw this tweet that summed up my feelings about it pretty well one day, where it was just like, oh, like, you know, white American leftists will praise this, and it's like a headline about like a polyamorous couple of 3 adopting a baby together, but then like condemn countries of color where people have multiple wives. And I was like, yeah, I think there is like a huge bias in that. Obviously, I don't like misogyny of any kind, and I don't like coercion, but I think we do from like an American lens, especially from a white feminism lens, we have like a real aversion to specifically men of color having multiple wives in cultures that aren't American Western ones. But like I've dated people who their families had like plural, like what we would call plural marriage in like the Mormon sense. But you know, just like culturally, it was very normal for men in their culture to marry multiple women, and they had like very happy lives. They had very good family structures. And to me, I'm like, that's just a cultural difference that I don't have a right to critique as like a white Western feminist. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that is a large part of the non-monogamy we see occurring in other cultures. There are also, though, obviously cultures where women have multiple partners, and that's the norm. So most of the non-monogamy is men with multiple wives, but again, not my place to judge that, not my culture. So how did we get here, though, you know, where today we actually see monogamy being pretty prevalent over the past 1,000 years, even though it's like not this like thing that you can expect to just find everywhere in every culture, and that's a done deal. And it starts 75 million years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
So earliest primates, as early as 75 million years ago, they were like solitary, and they would prefer to live in isolation. And around this time, adults would only come together specifically to mate. But as time passed, primates as a whole became more social. They evolved to live together in groups. But still, they weren't like monogamous as we think of like humans today. Today, there are still like primate species like the bonobos and chimps who mate with multiple individuals in their groups. But humans do, by contrast, tend to be overwhelmingly monogamous. It's a little different from humans to primates. But the primate history kind of affects how human beings evolved to think about monogamy, basically. So in this one poll of American adults in January 2020, only 56% today said that their ideal relationship would be completely monogamous.
Interesting.
So it still is most people. So, but in the United States where monogamy is super, super prevalent. But, you know, I thought it was interesting because it's like, that means that 44% of people would be open to a non-monogamous relationship.
Yeah, and they're probably not saying it openly.
Right, that's true too. So, you know, still human beings, overwhelmingly monogamous, especially compared to early primates. But people think that the way we got here is a few different theories come up to how to describe this transition from like primates just doing it with all the other primates to like 2.5 kids in a nuclear family today, basically. Mm-hmm. So there are 4 theories about this that started with primate evolution. The first is the STD theory,
Okay.
Yes. So one theory about monogamy is literally that it developed to help curb the spread of sexually transmitted diseases. And this is pretty funny because whenever I've talked about non-monogamy in the past, people on the internet just like instantly go to STDs. Like they're obsessed with STDs. They're fixated on STDs. And in my experience, non-monogamous people are usually hyper aware of sex safety and use protection a lot more often than people who are in monogamous dynamics. And actually research shows this is correct. When monogamous people cheat, they tend not to use protection, and polyamorous people do in general tend to use protection.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know plenty of people in monogamous relationships who have ended up with STDs and plenty of non-monogamous people who don't. There's no shame in getting an STD, right? It's like a cold or a flu, whatever. It just kind of happens. You can take steps to try to prevent STDs from spreading. But ultimately, getting an STD isn't a sign of moral failure, right? Today, most STDs are treatable, which also makes it easier for us to just kind of be like, yep. Take the medication, it goes away. It's annoying. It's annoying trying to get an entire polycule on the same antibiotic schedule, for sure. But it's not the biggest deal. But back in the day, though, STDs were a bigger deal because we didn't have as much treatment for them, right? We had syphilis, we had chlamydia, we had gonorrhea. They could have huge impacts on populations. They could even render people, like, infertile. They could kill some, people, creatures. And these STDs could be lethal. So this one study by Chris Bouch and his colleagues at the University of Waterloo in Canada used mathematical models to simulate the evolution of different mating norms in human societies, and found that when societies became larger, the prevalence of STDs became more endemic. And they suggest that this rise in STDs would have put social pressure on humans to stay monogamous in terms of their mating behavior as opposed to the primates who came before them.
Interesting.
So that's one theory. It's a whatever theory. The second one is called the fatherhood offspring advantage. So this one says monogamy developed potentially as a way to give people an advantage in child rearing. This study is pretty wild, honestly. It was also from UCL, where Kit Opie was based, and they studied primates. So what they found was that as infants required more attention and care from their mothers became less available to mate after childbirth, and then the male primates would therefore be incentivized to kill all the infants so that the mothers would mate with them again.
What?
Yes. So fathers wanting their offspring to survive would have to stick around to protect their offspring from other primates that just wanted to mate. So fathers being around also obviously had other advantages in that now you had two caregivers who could help provide food and other care to ensure the baby's survival. But yeah, so in primates, they basically observed they're all these male primates are really, really, really horny and they'll just kill the babies to have sex. And you're like, wow, that's fucking dark. That is some dark primate shit right there. Wow. And that's who we evolved from.
Yeah.
Them. Okay, so then the third one's actually my favorite theory. This one is, I'm calling it the beta male theory, but that's not its actual name. Okay, so this theory basically says that primates originally were in a dominance-based hierarchical social structure. So only the strongest male primates would have been able to mate with the female primates. So eventually what ended up happening is the weak males, aka the beta cucks, said with love, stopped trying to physically compete with the tough alpha male primates, and instead they just tried to be nice to the females. They were just wow, that guy's a douchebag, am I right? Let's just go hang out, you and me. But in primate speak. And this worked. The females were yes, I also hate this violent, aggressive one. I like you, you're nice. And that created this natural pair bonding that happened. So the female primates became more responsive to these highly caring, protective males and more repulsed by the aggressive, dominating males. And ultimately, the beta males became the alphas in the end just by not being shitbags.
Wow.
And I love this. I love this theory. This is my favorite theory. Newsflash. People like it when you're nice. That's
wow.
I know.
It blows my mind that people, the adage is true. You catch more flies with honey.
It's true. It's true. And then the last theory is called the female spacing theory, which basically says that female primates started to establish larger territories to gain access to better food resources. And this meant that males would physically have a harder time just finding multiple mates. I assume it's a bit like being polyamorous in rural Kentucky. You can try, but it's going to take you a few hours to get to another person who's interested in having sex with you. And by the end of the day, it just becomes way more work than it's worth. And you're I'm just going to hang out with this one. It's here. So that is also an interesting one. So again, these are all kind of the transition from primate to human, right? These theories. But as human societies developed, we did definitely, yes, start to see monogamy take hold in some of them. In not all of them, but in some of them. And this kind of gets us up. That was 75 million years ago, right? Now that brings us to 7 million years ago. And this is around the time, the last common ancestor between apes and like the species that would eventually become humans kind of split off. We're starting to see evidence already at this stage of monogamy in early pre-human, human-y societies. So these early humans actually get known for like 3 things in particular. Number 1, carrying food in their arms and walking on 2 feet, right? Bipedal structure, they're walking on 2 feet, their arms are freed up, they're like, I'm collecting food. It's awesome. Very human activity. The second is concealing external signs of female ovulation, which was mildly interesting to me, but also the wording just made me kind of go, so I didn't actually look into that one at all. But the third one's important. That is where we started forming those pair bonds, bonding, and being like, we're partners now with another one. Not necessarily monogamous, but still a pair bonding. Yeah, so some anthropologists hypothesize that this pair bonding could include monogamy based solely off like the teeth of the early predecessors of humans. Basically, the males stopped needing such aggressive teeth because they stopped trying to bite each other for a chance at all the ladies. So they're like, look at how small this one's teeth are. They probably had monogamy. But, okay. It's a theoretical stretch, experts agree, but it is a working theory they're going off of just based on some fossil records, according to Scientific American. So they're working on that one. They're getting it together. It sounds a little rough to me, but it's interesting. So then we're going to jump ahead millions of years, and we're at 18 BC, okay? So we're in ancient Rome. And in ancient Rome, sexual infidelity around the time, it's pretty well tolerated, especially with sex workers. That's like a normal part of society for them. But they start to put in this socially imposed monogamy on the whole and really lean into it. So then the first Roman emperor, Augustus, creates this moral legislation, basically, that rewards members of the senatorial aristocracy who marry and have children, and in turn will punish people who are celibate or childless, which was pretty common at the time. Pretty common not to have kids at the time. So some people theorize this was because it presented like a military advantage. Basically, the more men you keep at home with their families, the more men you have available to go fight in your wars and pay you taxes.
Whoa.
Yes.
This is kind of like a galaxy brain moment.
I know. So they weren't just wandering the world looking to have sex with whatever they could get. Basically, they were at home raising kids, and then, the emperor's like, oh, you're here. Go serve your village, serve your town, serve your empire.
So monogamy as a form of control.
Monogamy as a form of control. And shockingly, of the men. Usually we see monogamy as a form of control of women, but this was a form of control of men.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this one sounds pretty shitty, honestly, but anybody who's ever been in a polyamorous relationship probably understands having more than one partner is a lot of work. And by imposing monogamy, ancient Roman societies created a lot more free time for their citizens. Suddenly you got time to fight in a war. You got time to go get a job and pay taxes.
Because you're not fucking.
You're not fucking 20 people in the town, which takes a lot of time. Yeah. They were also obviously trying to do something about their population numbers, right? Remember, lots of people were not having kids at all. So they were like, hey, you guys need to cut your shit out and you need to go make more people, like right now, right? So that was happening in 18 BC. And then by the year 1 AD, right, Christianity, a thing, hence it being the year 1, I guess, emerging in the Roman Empire, and Christianity really embraces monogamy.
Oh yeah, one of the commandments is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Right? Even saying, like, 2 people have to reserve their bodies and desires for each other, and that marriage would be, this is a quote I found somewhere, an everlasting threesome with God.
Whoa.
Yeah, do you think it's cheating if you're horny for God?
This reminds me of that South Park episode where they make all the songs that are like horny for Jesus.
Yes, this is that.
Because they turn all the because they're like, we're not getting anywhere being a boy band, we're becoming a Christian boy band. And then you realize they just replaced baby with Jesus.
Oh, yes. I think I remember this, actually. And obviously, Christianity spread throughout the West, like, majorly. We know this. There were wars. People died. They were really doing it. And as Christianity spread, so did monogamy, even though no Bible passage explicitly prohibits polyamory in any way.
Whoa. I have heard there are some, like, scholars of the Bible who say thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife could mean different things.
Yes, I've also heard this. And also, remember, it was pretty normalized not to have sex with other people's wives, but to have sex with sex workers, professionals.
Yeah, so, but someone was like, I think it means, like, someone was like, it's jealousy, not infidelity.
Yes, exactly.
But, you know, there's so many things. For some reason on TikTok for a while, I got where, like, these are mistranslations, which was, like, blew my mind because I had to go to church as a kid. And I was like, whoa.
Yes. Okay, so if we skip ahead around 100 years, not quite, we get to 92 AD. Now, this is where Christianity is really spreading, and the practice of monogamy, it starts confounding people who are encountering it for the first time. So in the year 92, Tacitus wrote, "Almost alone among barbarians, they," referring to the Germans, "are content with one wife, except a very few among them, and these not from sensuality, but because their noble birth procures them many offers of alliance." So as Christianity spreads and people start encountering it for the first time, we know from documents that people in other cultures are like, you guys only got one wife? What's going on? You boring? No, none of the other wives want you? What's going on? So they get really confused. They're like, why do these women hate you? You can only get one? God, that's humiliating for you, man. So we know this was really confusing for people when they first encountered it. And so by the year, I don't know, like the 1200s, 13th century, Westerners, they're still getting surprised to encounter non-Western societies and see that they don't practice monogamy, right? Now, when Westerners are traveling around and they're seeing people and they're like, oh, why don't you guys do monogamy? They're getting confused. And they don't realize that it's like, well, monogamy really wasn't that much of a thing until Christianity.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Marco Polo, for example, encountered the Musulmen in the 13th century, and he was really shocked to find that they had multiple partners. So he wrote, and he said, when a husband leaves his wife to go on a journey for more than 20 days, as soon as he's left, she takes another husband. And she is fully entitled to do this by local custom. And the men, wherever they go, they'll take wives the same way. So he was like really perplexed by this. But as you can see, you know, it's not necessarily just like the men are owning all the wives in this super like sexist domination way that I think like a lot of like white Western feminism is how we think about polyamory in other cultures. But it's not. We see here the women are doing it too. They're like, yeah, my guy's gone. I'm gonna get a new guy. Well, he's gone, and he'll get a new chick, and it's whatever. So it wasn't really until the 1700s that we start to see monogamy interact with this idea of the bourgeoisie, right? Because capitalism is kind of emerging, we're thinking things. And in the 18th century, we have this budding bourgeoisie exist. And we also have romanticism as a movement popping up.
Yeah. Ooh. My, what is it? The corset is tight.
It's heaving. Your bosom is heaving in the corset.
I can't. I had, you know what I'm talking about.
I was picturing
the heaving bosom.
The heaving bosom in the corset. So this is really where, though, people who weren't even religious, like secular people, started to get interested in this idea of marrying and just being in a monogamous relationship for love. They were like, it's poetic, it's beautiful. You know, up until then, monogamy in the West had been a thing, right, since the year one. But lots of times it had been a strategic partnership based on finances or lifestyle or religion. So it would be people who were super religious were like all about monogamy, and people who are a little less religious would be like, yeah, that's fine, whatever.
So it was more about logistics.
It was more about logistics and religion. But as romanticism took hold, even people who were relatively secular and not that religious started to get into monogamy because they associated it with this like romantic and artistic virtue. And that's where I think like how we perceive of love today, like the love of your life, like the greatest thing you'll ever accomplish, like this one special person who solves all your problems. It's like, I think it comes from this romanticism movement that hit secular people with this idea of monogamy.
Yeah, because it's like a euphoric, it's almost like a mystic religious experience.
Yes.
Without the religion.
Yes. It's like if you lack religion, you can, you know, believe in this higher power, which is love.
Yeah.
So then by 1760, we see the Industrial Revolution start to pick up. And this is really where Western monogamy, as we think of it, just gets fucking like all nailed in, all tightened up. Everything's just ready to go. Because the Industrial Revolution went until around 1840, and it got really tied to capitalism and the nuclear family. So people start finding themselves working 100-hour work weeks in factories. Remember, we did our 69-4-20 episode. Yeah, society really started to then place emphasis on the home. So there's this idea that the romantic couple, that would be your solace from the treachery of work. So the modern industrial city came along with the weakening of both religion and community bonds, and the pressure placed on your partner in the home really increased. As families started to move to the cities, men would go to work during the day, while women often stayed home to tend to the house and raise children. But of course, women and children also worked too. But this was a change from men and women working together on farms in these like cohesive rural communities like they had been before. While nuclear families existed as far back as the 1300s, the rise of nuclear families in industrialization created these like more distinct gender and labor roles that felt really isolating to people.
Yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of people think that it is like monogamy is somehow like ingrained or like biological, you know, it's like when it's like it's a concept, you know?
Right. It's a concept and it's a way to like structure societies. And what we found during the Industrial Revolution is that people started like traveling to look for opportunity and work. Right? This is something that played out in my family history, definitely. But to move your family unit has to be small to be flexible enough to move from place to place looking for work.
Oh.
Right. So the default family unit elsewhere, and even in England prior to the 1300s, had always been extended family units. Tristan Fisher wrote that the nuclear family today is a historical aberration and ultimately doomed to fail because it is pretty recent as we think of it and stemmed from this industrialization. And there's this psychotherapist, Esther Perel, who wrote in her book Mating in Captivity, today we have to give one person what an entire village used to provide: financial and emotional support, companionship, entertainment, friendship, familiarity, mystery, love, sex, the works.
Yeah, I think about that a lot.
Yeah, you've talked about that a few times in our episodes, how it's like the emphasis we place on the idea of like your one true love, the nuclear family, is like really destructive to like ideas of community bonds and community values and friendship.
Yeah, and not to say that it's bad. Like people can like love their nuclear families. Like that's, you know, if you love it, you love it. But I think it's more just like the idea that it's the only way. And especially like I see people who have children on TikTok talk about like, holy shit, I'm doing everything by myself.
Yes, and that's also a very
like, or it's
thing.
just me and my partner. Mm-hmm. So you have two people taking care of a kid who's like, whereas like before you would have like a lot of people helping you out.
Right, exactly. Actually, somebody who wrote about this is Judy Thorne in It's Time to Abolish the Family. So Judy Thorne said, the nuclear family was a 19th century invention for efficiently reproducing bodies suitable for work. Instead of extended networks of kin and others, families are compact units where most care is performed by one or two overworked individuals. The family makes care dependent on whether you have a supportive family. It privatizes care. If you do not have a supportive family, that's not anyone else's problem. This lean, efficient, capitalist family is the workshop, not only of workers' bodies, but of their values. Discipline, respect for authority, and the repression of aberrant desires like queerness, idleness, or excess. So I think that's what you were talking about. It's like, yeah, you lose your village, all the work falls on these like one or two people, they're really overworked, and they're like, this feels impossible, and you're like, yeah, well, this is not how historically children would have been raised.
And I feel like it's kind of by design. Like, I think about how something like poverty is by design.
Yeah.
Like, because if you think about it, like, you need people to be, like, the ruling class needs people in poverty to work for them.
Yes, 100%.
And the reason, like, why there is not a social safety net is because then people wouldn't work for, like, poverty is not a bug. It's, like, a feature. Same with, like, you know, I saw a TikTok where someone was like, yeah, they were, like, talking about they were, like, a missionary, and they went to some place like Sweden. I might be getting this TikTok wrong, but the gist was like, yeah, like I wish we didn't have so many a priest or a minister was like, yeah, if we didn't have a social safety net, people would need the church more and come to the Lord more.
Oh,
and that's why a social safety net is bad, because they should really rely on the church.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And I think about that as being connected, that like this is a feature of mainly like capitalism and like control.
You know, that's really interesting because someone we both know, Emily Barker, who Celestial Investments on Instagram, you should all follow them if you're looking for somebody who talks about disability advocacy. They are disabled, and their grandmother told them, like, you should really get in with the local church because they'll help you and they'll do things for you. And Emily was like, well, I'm not really religious, but it is like a place to get what your social safety net fails you in the United States.
Well, I think it's really like, I don't know if insidious is a term, but when you promote something that should be love for everybody, community for everybody, but instead you're like, you can only get care through doing this thing.
Right. These very specific actions make you worthy of care.
Yeah. Instead of just being like, just by existing, just by being alive,
we should all get access.
Care. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, I feel like the nuclear family is part of the same thing of like why, especially in America, we don't have a social safety net.
Yeah.
Because there'd be like, or why people really, look like, or not people, but like the culture at large looks down on like single people.
Yes.
Because that is your safety net is supposed to be the nuclear family.
It's supposed to be the one partner.
It's not supposed to be the government. It's not supposed to be your community. It's supposed to be your spouse.
Right.
And spouse, because they want you to get married and lock that shit in.
Yeah, they do.
And they want you to, and like, it's funny because a little bit, like, I don't want to sound like tin hat conspiratorial, but I feel like if you, in like a logical exercise, like, to me, like, if you keep going up the ladder, that's like where you go, or going down the ladder. You're going places here.
Right.
But like Candyland, whatever. Chutes and ladders.
Ladders.
The corn song.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like, yeah, I feel like instead of like allowing people to choose that as a way that fits their lifestyle, it is by default.
It definitely is.
Like, because for some people like me, fits my lifestyle. I can't focus on like more than one person at a time usually.
Right.
Not all the time, but like...
Yeah, for my boyfriend, fits his lifestyle. It's what's perfect for him.
Fits my lifestyle, but it's not because I feel like it's the only way to live and I must do it to complete.
I mean, I remember before your current boyfriend, you were very much looking forward to being single.
Yes.
And then you just happened to meet a very nice person you get along with very, very well.
Yeah, who our lives gel very well together.
Yes,
and
totally.
It's like I couldn't, and then I'm just like, oh, like these other dudes. Like,
you chose it. You got to choose monogamy, and I feel like a lot of people don't feel like they have that option.
Yeah, well, also too, okay, the way that our society is set up, like, okay, it's so expensive for rent. It's cheaper if you have a partner.
Oh, yeah, I did that all the time. If I ever met somebody and I was like, you don't seem bad. We seem like we won't kill each other. Do you want to move in? It'll cut my rent in half. I always did that.
That's why people, like, I didn't leave a bad relationship because I couldn't fucking afford to.
Yeah, and that is totally a thing that people encounter all the time.
And, like, and it works to the advantage of, mainly, cishet men.
Right.
Who are, like, and it's just, like, it's a whole, it's just like, it's a whole thing about, like, to me, it's ultimately about control and controlling people's lives. Because if you, like, for a lot of people, if society was suddenly just like, everybody's marrying everybody else, people, like, lose their minds. Because, well, I mean, like, not everybody, but I mean, like, because you're like, what about the control? We have to have people in control so they do the jobs. Like, and I think that's why people are like, people think that people won't work or do things unless they are coerced. People will work of their own free will. You're just making it shitty.
Right. As long as the jobs and the labor aren't shitty and people see how they benefit not only themselves but their communities, people will work.
Or people don't realize that some jobs are just bullshit jobs.
Right. A lot of jobs are just fucking shitty jobs. And I think, like, that is totally true. Like, you have to keep people in these, like, super codependent nuclear family structures where they need each other to survive or otherwise they will die. And then that makes them, in turn, codependent enough that they have to work suddenly these really shitty jobs because they have to put food on the table for the kids because only one partner can afford to work because childcare is so expensive that the other partner, it's just easier if they stay home with them. And it's like you create this, like, cycle of interdependence and need, but it's all within, like, one household.
Yeah, and I think it creates a lot of unnecessary misery. I know so many people who literally work a job and their entire job pays for their kids' preschool or school.
Yeah. So we still definitely do feel all of the effects from, like, tying the idea of the family to capitalism under industrialization. So in 2020, Adelita Summer wrote this really good thing that I'm going to read. Under capitalism, we all feel insecure and unsafe because we are. Capitalism tells us to find this safety and security in the monogamous relationship and nuclear family. Thus, monogamy socially conditions us into counter-revolutionary tendencies. Capitalist society tells us that we are supposed to find everything in our monogamous relationship. And under our secular society, monogamy is the new religion. We are supposed to find safety, security, stability, predictability, share finances, share property, have a best friend, a family member, a near complete emotional support system, single lover, eroticism, mystery, unpredictability, inspiration, intellectual equal, savior, shared politics, shared hobbies, shared humor, travel partner, co-parents, and more. Our monogamous partner is supposed to save us from the existential angst and toxic loneliness of living under capitalism. Monogamous marriage is viewed with a finality. Marriage has to be magical and a big deal, for we turn to our monogamous partners to literally save us from capitalism.
Yeah, and it's like, it really is supposed to be this thing, like, that's like, I keep thinking about, like, there's, like, all this discourse about, like, divorce guy.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Elon Musk is, like, typical, like, divorce guy. Like, being in a marriage is supposed to keep men in check.
Oh, totally. But that also is, like, the gendered expectation of labor and, like, a relationship dynamic. Like, women or feminine people in relationships are very often supposed to be, like, the caregivers and the keepers. We actually, on my TikTok, I made, like, a funny video about why I try not to mention my job on my TikTok. Somebody was like, why do you try to keep them separate? And I was like, I'll show you an example. And I pulled up with all of the person's contact info blanked out so nobody could see who it was. Somebody had DM'd me on Saturday at midnight one night, like, hey, tell your mans to DM me, I got a question about my order. And I was like, not even my business, my boyfriend's business. And I responded and was like, bro, it's midnight on the weekend, email customer service like a normal person. But I, like, shared it on my TikTok. Like, this is why I try not to tell people what my business is.
I don't do it either because I get customer service DMs that
it's gnarly. And
then people, like, yeah, it's just like, also, like, I really do think that privacy is more of a big deal than, like, people now realize, because, you know, all our information is public. We should, like, I think that we can, like, a lot of judgment comes out that keeps us from the bigger picture.
Well, and it's just like access and work. It's like, you're not my boss, you can't call me into work right now.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I posted it and somebody was like, not even your business, your boyfriend's business, because we all know as a feminine person, you are accountable for everything a man does in your life, and it's your job to manage him.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like, exactly. It's another form of the gendered expectation of labor. I need to control my man. He is not accountable for anything he does. I'm accountable for what we both do, because it's my job to keep him in check. And of course, I sent it to my boyfriend and I was like, these fucking people are going to be the death of me. And he was like, this is wild. Also wild because I did answer her customer service DM at like 7 o'clock on Sunday morning when I should not have been working.
Wow.
But yeah.
You know what I was thinking about too is, like, the idea of the nuclear family as a form of surveillance.
Oh,
and
interesting.
the idea of, like, monogamy, because we were talking about, like, what do you consider cheating? And I'm like, I don't know, like, that's that person's private info. But when you're in a relationship, you're expected, like, I know everything about you.
Right.
You no longer have your own independence. You are part of another person. And who knows how that power dynamic goes. I personally do not like controlling other people. I don't like to be controlled. I don't like puppet master shit.
Yeah.
I think I don't like to manipulate people. I don't like to be manipulated. Like, that's just me. And part of that is, like, their private shit is their own shit. And,
that's how I feel,
but you're expected, when you are in a partnership, monogamous relationship, that the other person's shit is also your shit now.
Right. There's, like, a blurring of, like, boundaries.
Yeah, and usually it's on, like, if you're in, like, a straight relationship, it's on the femme person.
Yeah, the feminine person has to, like, deal with whatever their husband or man is doing. Not femme, because that's, like, a lesbian designation.
Yeah, but like, you know.
If you're, like, a woman, if you're, like, a feminine non-binary person, like, anything like that, yeah, the onus of care falls on you. So, okay, so all of this is happening in the 1800s, late 1700s, 1800s. Industrialization is really, like, hammering home the nuclear family. This is what we're doing. This is what everybody's doing, right? And what's really interesting is that the 1850s was also a huge period of Western imperialism. Like, obviously, we've seen Western imperialism in history before this, but the 1850s was kind of a big time for it. So, like, prior to the period of imperialist expansion where the West started to colonize other global regions, back then, we saw that just 16% of societies were monogamous. But this idea has led some people to argue that monogamy as we think of it today was invented by the West. Like, some people literally call it a white man's thing. Because they're like, this is just something white people were doing before Western imperialism. So in India in the 19th century, for example, the British had to impose monogamy on the locals. And this checks out other places as well. In Ghana, British colonizers framed polyamorous relationships as immoral and institutionalized heterosexual monogamous marriage by, like, control. That's what you had to do. And even in Japan, monogamy was declared like the only legal way to have a relationship, basically, after the country was defeated in World War II and occupied by the U.S. Army. Yeah, so of course, you know, in North America, colonizing forces imposed monogamy on Native people too, but like way before the 1850s, right, when they first came. And there is a University of Alberta professor, Kim Tallbear, who theorizes that societal preference for monogamy today still remains a legacy of settler colonialism. So Tallbear is a Native person and explains that she struggled with monogamy in marriage, describing it as, quote, squeezing myself into the box of a normative marriage. And she said it was the hardest thing she's ever had to do. So she and her husband ended up cutting off their romantic partnership, but they still remained legally married because, she explains it, within the settler colonial system, state-sanctioned marriage, whether secular or ceremonial, provides benefits that make it easier to sustain kinship networks. Point blank. So Tallbear says, monogamous and non-monogamous people alike often have no sense of the way that monogamous settler marriage and straightness was imposed on people in order to build the nation state. So this was just really interesting to me because we see historically Western white culture spreading around the globe and also bringing with it monogamy. And people in other cultures being like, we kind of were fine with the way we were doing things. And white people showing up and be like, no, we don't understand it, so you don't get to do it. Which also I think ties into my reluctance as like a Western white feminist to say like shit about like men having wives, more than one wife anywhere. I'm just like, that's not my fucking business because that's your cultural experience and what was working for you. And obviously if people within that culture have critiques of it, they can. But for me, I'm like, that's fucking no different than like the horrors of monogamy in lots of capacities in the United States where it's like really, really harshly imposed. Poor women feel like they have no recourse. There's no community kinship. There's none of these things, you know? And like, yeah, the person I dated whose family had a history of like having multiple wives, like their grandpa married twins because in their culture, twins were the same person. So if you married one, you needed to marry both. And they had this like really, really big family that was like really healthy and they all loved each other very much. And it was just like part of their cultural history. And like, to me, I'm like, how do I look at that and be like, no, you have to do it my way. My way is better, you know? So very, very interesting. Just something I try to be aware of, to be like, this is not my place to have critiques of. But yeah, so this is all happening. Now, finally, monogamy is spreading around the globe to other nations because white people keep traveling. And then we get to 1884. So remember, the Industrial Revolution at this time, still pretty fresh. But what's perhaps most interesting about humans is that the idea of the nuclear family as it took hold during the Industrial Revolution, which, you know, again, focuses just on a couple raising a child in their own home, it's actually like pretty bad for society, and people are starting to kind of understand this. So today, anthropologist Sarah Hurdy of UC Davis says a monogamous set of parents is not enough to raise an ape to be as smart and social as a human. Why? Well, human babies are complicated. First off, they need to consume something like 13 million calories before they mature, which is like a lot of like nutrition to gather for anything, right? It's just going to be like hard finding enough food to make sure your baby is eating and growing. Even for two people like a monogamous couple, like parents, to provide. That's why it's so common in monogamous societies for parents' family members to be expected to help. So Hurdy points out, human mothers are willing to let others hold their baby right away from birth. And that is really rare. Like, a lot of animals wouldn't do that. They wouldn't trust you. But human mothers are like, I need you. Because the two of us cannot raise this human baby on our own. This human baby requires so many resources that we are not equipped to provide. Like, I need as many people as possible to like this baby and try to help it. So I thought that was like super interesting. And we tend to call this cooperative breeding. And without it, early Homo erectus would not have been able to break through this hypothetical gray ceiling that constrains an ape's brain to a maximum volume of around like 700 cubic centimeters. Basically, we would not have been able to consume enough calories to grow and be smart and happy and well in just monogamous pairs alone. We needed more than two people, two apes, two whatever to help raise a child. So as early as 1884, Engels started critiquing the nuclear family. It was like, this nuclear family is not how societies or people are supposed to function. Like, this is fucked up. And this was in The Origin of the Family, Private Property, and the State. And this was just a huge critique of the Victorian nuclear family ideal. So in it, Engels says, monogamy was the first form of the family not founded on natural, but on economic conditions. The victory of private property over primitive and natural collectivism. And as early as the Communist Manifesto, Marx and Engels discussed abolishing the nuclear family, not because they wanted to end love or romance, right? But because they wanted to strip love away from its ties to an economic and political unit, to ensure nobody's survival would be tied to remaining in a romantic relationship.
I think about that so much. How many people now, like, let's say in the United States, like, if everyone was like, okay, everyone has a house and all the money they need and health insurance, so you don't have to be married to get health insurance, how many peoples would just straight up leave their partners or, you know, spouses?
Yeah, it's true. And that's why such a prominent element of domestic violence, trigger warning, we're going to talk about domestic violence, is financial abuse, financial control. Because an abuser will often control your finances to make sure you cannot afford to leave them, because they know that that is a way to make sure you're right where they want you.
Yeah, because we don't have a fucking social safety net.
Because nobody's going to help you, right. So this is where, you know, we see Marx and Engels really talking about, like, how this ties in to this idea of survival, and obviously that comes along with a lot of gender conversation. And this kind of brings us to the 1960s. So, you know, Marx and Engels had been critiquing the nuclear family and how it was hinged on monogamy. We start to see these ideas kind of playing out in contemporary Western feminist movements. Like, by the 1960s, women start reporting that decades of monogamy had suffocated them. Since the 1960s, the rate of divorce in the United States has roughly doubled. By 2003, only 38% of married couples describe themselves as happy. And a lot of this kind of stems from this kind of wake-up call in the 1960s in Western white culture. So Megan O'Rourke explained this in 2003 by saying, domestic cohabitation is a gulag. Marriage is the rough equivalent of a credit card with 0% APR that upon first misstep zooms to a punishing 30% and compounds daily. You feel you owe something, or you're afraid of being alone, so you work at your relationship. And this obviously references the seminal work of Betty Friedan in her 1963 book, The Feminine Mystique, where she said that the suburban housewife was utterly bored and lacking fulfillment, deadened by domesticity, stuck working at these relationships. And the book, of course, was super popular. It became a bestseller, and it helped. It was part of igniting a new generation of women critical of their role in marriage and monogamy in the home. So then, of course, in the 1960s, as the women's liberation movement takes off, and all these people are like, hey, we don't want to be bored housewives. We don't want to be domestic servants. Like, we don't even know if we want to be in these monogamous marriages. We also see, along with it, this idea of free love started to take off in the hippie movement, right? That also was happening in the 1960s. So originally, all of this was supposed to be about wanting to remove the state from decisions about marriage, birth control, sexual partners, marital fidelity, while engaging in home structures that vary dramatically from the nuclear family that predated it. And this is where we see the second resurgence of communes in the United States. Remember, we had like the first ones in the 1800s, which we talked about in our episode Commune, Feel the Noise, if anybody wants to listen. But
Great name.
Yeah, excellent name. I think you came up with that.
Oh, you did.
Did I? Oh, we're smart. Whoever did. But, you know, this was like the second wave of communes, and a lot of them were really pushing back against monogamy. That's why, like, the free love concept of the hippie movement is so ingrained in our minds. But the free love movement was actually relatively short-lived, and it wasn't too far-reaching. And today, again, monogamy remains the dominant relationship model in the West. So this kind of brings me to this idea, which is like the myth of the one.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're going to find your one. Like, you're going to find your soulmate.
You know, okay, you know what I was thinking about? Okay, Austin Powers. Bad movie, but
I think it's kind of a good movie.
I mean, it's funny. You know, I saw as a kid, it was really...
He's also a consent king.
He is. But, like, you know, he's like, oh, you horny, baby. Yeah. I cannot... that was terrible. But
okay,
anyway.
It's right. No one's
But,
joking.
like, okay, in the movie, he's, like, free love. Like, you know, like, James Bond's out. Like, he's getting horny with a lot of ladies. But at the end, he marries the one.
Right. And his free love movement's outdated, too. Everyone's like, we don't do that anymore.
And I was just like... It is interesting, like, in movies, when people are like, I'm going out, like, I'm free love. They're like, no, but you end up with the one.
You just didn't know your one yet. That's why.
We talk about this in our bonus episode about Iron Man.
Yes, we do. That's true. Yes, the Pepper Potts trad wife.
Yes.
Yes, that's true. But yeah, today, over half, 56% of U.S. adults say that they believe in the idea of a soulmate.
Interesting.
I know, it feels so mythical to me. I'm surprised that many people believe in it.
Well, actually, I'm not surprised that, like, more people don't, because I feel like it's really... I think that pop culture is ingrained in more people's brains than you think. Like, I think about when I was a kid, seeing stuff in movies, and I was like, that is how real life operates.
Yes.
Like, I believe that, like, probably a lot of people think that Disney movies are how real life operates.
Okay, this might kind of check out because when I was a kid, one of my favorite movies was Splendor, and it's about a girl who has 2 boyfriends. So, that might be true. But the interesting thing about the soulmate situation is that if you live in the South, you're even more likely than anywhere else in the country to believe in soulmates. 2/3 of people there believe in soulmates, as opposed to just 50% of people living in the West.
Interesting.
I feel like it has to do something with religion, right? Because we see monogamy tied to Christianity, and we see Christianity being more prevalent in the South.
And I don't know. I mean, the South is a romantic place.
It is romantic sometimes.
Sometimes, I mean... Yeah. I think of, like, what's that movie? The Princess and the Frog.
Oh, yeah. That's a cute one.
Do you like, I'm like, that's a romantic.
Yes,
it is. That's why I'm like, that's why the South is romantic, because the Princess and the Frog.
Yes. On top of this, though, weirdly, men are also more likely than women to say that they have met their soulmate and are currently with them.
What?
Yeah, men are like, this is my soulmate. I would die without her. And women are like, he's fine. Which kind of checks out, because I'm like, a lot of these men would probably die without this woman. She does everything for you, and she's like, we're dealing, it's fine.
Like, he's like, she's my soulmate, she cleans.
Yeah, she makes sure I don't take my medications wrong and die. She takes care of the kids, she does everything. And the woman's like, yes, I do.
Like,
yes, I do.
Like a soulmate is just a maid.
Yeah, exactly, like domestic servitude. So in 1822, there was this poet, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who wrote, "To be happy in married life, you must have a soulmate," right? And that's pretty new, this idea of soulmates. It's pretty new. But this idea, even he got it from somebody else. So he was basically saying, look, for a marriage to be successful, what if we had more than just economic and social compatibility? Like, what if we had a spiritual connection? Again, romanticism before that, not too far back, this is kind of happening. But this all actually came from Plato, the Greek philosopher, who he himself was quoting this other guy, Aristophanes, saying, "All humans were once united with their other half, but Zeus split them apart out of fear and jealousy."
Oh, that's kind of like Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Yes, it's like Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So Aristophanes says, when one of them meets his other half, the actual half of himself, the pair are lost in an amazement of love and friendship and intimacy, and one will not be out of the other's sight, as I may say, even for a moment. So I think this is probably where we got this idea of a soulmate from, and it's waxed and waned in popularity throughout history. But this whole idea of a soulmate, it turns out it's actually pretty bad for relationships.
Kind of seems like it puts a lot of pressure on someone.
Exactly. So this one researcher from University of Toronto conducted a study on people who believed in soulmates and how it led to their actions within the framework of a relationship. So he said people who view themselves as soulmates tend to be less satisfied when they think of conflicts in their relationship. And these would be people who would be more likely to discard a relationship than work through problems because they assume that, oh, we're just not soulmates. We're not the perfect fit, so somebody else is.
I almost am like, I feel like you could believe in a soulmate and just be like, a soulmate doesn't mean you have to fucking get along or even live with each other or like each other.
Yeah.
You're just like exactly like this other person.
That's totally true. All of this, though, is interesting too because having a soulmate would be like totally mathematically impossible. Obviously, it's not like grounded in reality, right? Like
it's kind of like how can Santa Claus visit all the kids?
Exactly. So,
but
yes,
you know, if you believe in Santa, that's cool.
If you believe in magic, maybe you believe in both. So this NASA roboticist Randall Munro actually ran the numbers on this once and says even if having a soulmate was real, your odds of finding them would be like so impossible. Like if you assume your soulmate is in the same age range as you, each person potentially has 500 million candidates to search from. And Munro says, okay, let's suppose you lock eyes with an average of a few dozen new strangers each day. If 10% of them are close to your age, that's around 50,000 people in a lifetime. And given that you have 500 million potential soulmates, you would only find your true love in one lifetime out of 10,000.
Wow.
Right. What we do know, though, promising for the romantics out there, is that it is scientifically possible to fall in love with somebody and stay in love with them forever. I love this.
That's nice.
We can call it true love, I guess. It doesn't necessarily have to do with monogamy or being a soulmate, but it is interesting because it says that, whether in the confines of monogamy or not, we at least know that having a positive feeling about lifelong partnerships, that is possible. You can do that. You can retain an emotional spark forever if you want. And it's probably possible you could do this with a number of people if you wanted, and you just choose one if you're doing it with monogamy. But there was basically this study where researchers scanned the brains of couples who had been together for 20 years, and the scans showed that for a tenth of these couples who'd already made it 20 years, they showed a burst of pleasure-boosting dopamine while looking at photos of their loved ones. Aww. The same exact chemical reaction that young couples exhibit in the first, flush of their excitement of a new romance.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so most passionate love does go away after roughly 15 months, but for 10% of couples who make it many, many years, their love will stay passionate the whole time.
Aww.
So it's rare, but it's possible. And what we know about this idea of long-term pair bonding, it happens in humans right across the board throughout history to varying degrees, and it can be appealing to people or fulfilling to people, but pair bonding on its own does not necessarily correlate with monogamy. You could be with somebody for 20 years and still get excited every time you think about them, and you could have 6 other partners.
Yeah.
None of those studies had anything to do with monogamy.
I heard somewhere where a lot of people who are in many year relationships and they love their partner cheat, not because they don't love their partner, it's just for some completely other reason.
Yes, we totally see that sex outside of these pair bonds or outside of marriages, it is really common. So roughly 1 in 8 U.S. adults say they have engaged in sexual activity with somebody who is not their partner. So that's 12%, and that's people who admit it, right? I'm sure a lot of people would never admit it.
Yeah.
Slightly more, 18%, say that they have had a sexual encounter with someone else without their partner's consent. So wording it a little different, sexual encounter, sexual activity, so basically 18 plus 12, if those are 2 different ones and you can only answer one question, that's 30% of people.
Yeah.
So roughly a third of people have done something they consider sexual with somebody who's not their main partner without their consent. So men, shockingly, 23% considered more likely than women, 13%, to say that they've had sex with somebody else without their consent of their main romantic partner.
And to me, if you're answering this to someone on the phone, a lot of people are going to lie.
A lot
so
of people
I would dare say that is
it's higher.
I feel anecdotally, the majority of people I've known have cheated at least once.
Yeah, I think so. And this is really funny to me. Who would you guess would be the group most likely to cheat on their partners?
Men?
It's rich men.
Oh.
Yeah, the richer you are, the more likely you are to cheat on your partner.
Wow.
And it's funny because when I've talked to my current boyfriend about monogamy and they're how firm are you on the monogamy thing? He was joking. He was well, if we were rich, it wouldn't matter. I was that's funny because this is actually true. Rich people are more likely to cheat.
Well, because if you think about it, your lifestyle, if you are financially independent, you're well, I don't have to be married to this person to live in my house.
Right.
So it's maybe that makes a difference,
I think it might. And when asked about how they would feel if a partner came to them wanting to engage in sexual activity with somebody else, most Americans, 67%, say they would never be okay with this. Only 6% say that they would be all right with it. 17% say they might, depending on the details of the situation. But how comfortable society is with sex outside of marriage, it depends on a lot of factors. Some cultures have a form of wife swapping that's super common, certain Inuit cultures. Some have polyandry, where women have multiple sexual partners outside of marriage who are all expected to sometimes help care for children as well. That happens in some lowland South American historical cultures. There's all these different ways that people have relationships, basically. And what we know is that monogamy is more socially conditioned than psychologically conditioned, which obviously doesn't mean that some people aren't fulfilled or happy in monogamous relationships. It just shows a social tendency which impacts our own expectations of like what is normal. And interestingly, psychologist Ashley Thompson has found that when you look at a monogamous relationship, we tend to hold ourselves to lower standards of monogamy than we would a partner.
Huh.
So if you're like, I texted my ex, that's not cheating. But if your partner was like, I texted my ex, you'd be like, you're cheating. Like, you're more likely to think what you're doing is totally fine and what your partner is doing is violating the boundaries of monogamy.
I feel like people do this for way more than that. They're like, when I do it, it's okay.
Yes, totally. I mean, that's, what is it? Rules for thee, but not for me?
Yeah, so many people do this.
Yeah, it's totally true.
You know, I think it's like, yeah.
Yes. It is really funny. Like, one time on the internet, I posted a picture of my boyfriend inside of a Target. Do you remember this?
Oh, yes.
It's funny because, like, we actually mask a lot in LA, and his mask broke in the parking lot, and I was like, there's hardly anybody here. We'll just run in, run out. It'll be fine, whatever. I didn't think about it, and, like, he was grabbing deodorant, and I took a picture really fast because I just do that. Posted it. Also, like, posted it right after I posted a negative COVID test. Like, we just taken negative COVID test that day, so we knew we didn't have COVID. But somebody, like, went off on a rampage about it online, and it turned out that they were judging. They're like, how dare your partner be in public without a mask on? And they had videos of their partner in public without a mask on as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's like they didn't think about it in their own life, but when they see somebody else do it, they're like, how dare you? But it's like, well, life is complicated, and people make imperfect decisions in an imperfect system.
It's like, hard out there.
You see it in other people more than you see it in yourself.
Oh, for sure. Like, I feel like I see this so much. Like,
it happens a lot.
I feel like even sometimes, like, just your friends will be like, oh, and this thing. And you're like, you did that same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've seen you do that, but okay.
You're like, oh my gosh, like, if someone, I'm not going to say.
Yeah. No, there's a lot. But yeah, the thing about the person and the mask killed me because somebody else online found a video of them and their partner and posted it and was like, is this you? Like, rules for thee, but not for me? Like, what?
You know, sometimes you gotta check yourself before you wreck yourself.
I mean, people in glass houses should not throw stones, and we all live in very fragile glass houses. That's how I feel.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Mine is a very, very fine glass.
I have a very fragile glass house I live in.
It's actually a wine glass.
Oh, you're tiny. You fit down there. That's cute. I like that. So, all right, whatever the case, we've got these ideas about what's normal, what's fine, what's not. It varies depending on who we're talking about. And I feel like a lot of times when we hear people talk about monogamy, they'll couch it in terms of like what's natural or not.
Yeah, which seems icky to me.
It seems icky to me too. And you'll hear it both ways. People will be like, being non-monogamous, that's not natural. Monogamy is natural. Or you'll hear people be like, monogamy is not natural. Non-monogamy is what's natural. And it feels weird to me as well. Like, naturist arguments about anything are weird. Like, wearing clothes isn't natural. Driving a car isn't natural. Like,
yeah, okay. Like, when people are like, I'm an alpha dog, or you're a beta. I'm like, they're dogs.
Yeah, you're
like,
not a
dogs
dog.
Eat their own shit.
Yeah.
I heard that on a tweet, so I don't, you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm just like, we can make our own rules on how to live.
And we have, like, 99.9% of human societies are not natural, so who really cares what happens in nature
the thing.
anyway?
It's like, people think that, like, capitalism is natural, but there's a lot of, like, levers that make capitalism work.
Or not work.
Like, people think that, like, and to me, it's just, like, a weird thing where it's, like, it abdicates responsibility because you're like, that's just the way it is. Don't ask any questions. It's natural.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't care if monogamy is natural or not, honestly. But there is some interesting stuff we can look at within the scope of like our natural instincts at the very least that's just like mildly interesting to talk about. So first off, it's worth noting that pretty much any relationship dynamic you can imagine exists in nature. Monogamy exists in nature, polyamory exists in nature, polygamy exists in nature, which is where men can have multiple partners but women can't. Also the opposite, where women can have multiple partners and men can't, that also exists in nature. Any type of relationship dynamic you can imagine is natural, basically. It's occurring in nature somewhere. But the BBC did this report where they were looking at monogamy and they were like, okay, what's the difference between social monogamy and sexual monogamy? And social monogamy would involve a partnered pair living close together and typically like co-parenting offspring together. And these couples typically have sex with one another, but they might not be 100% exclusive. But people who are sexually monogamous they would be 100% exclusive, and that in both humans and other species, that is considered pretty rare. So in fact, from the approximately 4,000 mammal species on Earth, only 3% practice any form of monogamy by some records, and fewer than 10% by other records. Most monogamous animals in nature are birds.
Interesting.
Again, not
the
that
penguins.
It's super... Yeah, the penguins. Not that it super matters, but I'm like, oh, this stuff's kind of just interesting. So take it with a grain of salt, everybody.
Yeah, it's just interesting. You're like, oh, like for me, like, the penguins love each other.
Yeah. So 15 to 29% of primate species, for example, favor living together as couples. But way less commit to monogamy like humans would think of it. They'll engage in social pairing, but they'll still have sexual relationships outside of that pairing. And based on both science and my own relationships with monogamy, I personally think that a lot of how we feel about monogamy comes down to our own experiences of things like jealousy.
Yeah.
I think about this a lot. I don't think jealousy by default is a bad emotion to have or like a shameful experience.
It just happens sometimes.
It just happens. It's a human emotion. But science does show that we have different relationships with jealousy based largely on our genetic makeup. Like in one research study, it was shown that around a third of the difference in levels of jealousy across the population were based on genetics alone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which means some people are just going to be more or less concerned with their partner's fidelity than others. And, I feel like this really hit home for me because I often feel like I have no capacity for jealousy whatsoever, and I always wonder why. I'm like, why doesn't this bother me like it would bother somebody else? But, it also probably wouldn't bother my mom or my dad based on what I know about them.
I honestly have no clue.
What's up with your parents? I mean, I feel like my parents were like single for a lot of my life, so I got to see them date. And
my parents have been together for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also think, for the other 2/3 of what has to do with jealousy, it probably has a lot to do with social conditioning. And that probably does include things like how you see your parents interacting in a romantic relationship.
Yeah, I mean,
expectations of what's normal.
Yeah, I know, prior to my parents getting together, my mom was like engaged. She dated a lot. She was like, she was Sex in the City in the 70s.
Yes.
But my dad, I don't think as much. He was in the military.
Right. I think like a lot of just like the idea of jealousy, monogamy, what we think is normal, what we think is cheating, all of it. 2/3 of it probably does have to do with what the world around us taught us is normal or acceptable behavior.
Yeah, but it's weird though, because like, I mean, I feel like most people who have been married that long would be like, oh, this is blah, blah, But I've definitely, my mom was like, this lady was flirting with your dad at his high school reunion, but she wasn't like she wasn't like, your dad cheated.
Right. Well, she's probably secure in their relationship by this point as well.
I think at this point.
Yeah.
So I think in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Even if he was like, oh yeah, nice dress, lady, my mom would be like, who cares?
Right. Yeah, I think that like the biggest part about like social conditioning for what's like normal or acceptable in a romantic relationship does have to do with something you touched on earlier, which is compulsory monogamy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like today, Western societies do tend to operate from a position of compulsory monogamy, which just means like your default is monogamy and society and institutions in it are set up to make it very difficult for you to deviate from that. And this term is referencing Adrian Rich's 1980 term, compulsory heterosexuality, which refers to the social idea that heterosexuality is the only legitimate or moral way for people to be. And it encourages people to deny their own wants or needs in favor of fulfilling the social expectation of compulsory heterosexuality because they were never shown that like being gay was a viable option for their lives. And in particular, Adrian Rich's term was about lesbians. And it's very like interesting if you ever read like the Lesbian Manifesto or anything about being a lesbian. They talk a lot about this idea of compulsory heterosexuality. It's very, very good to read if anybody's interested. But yeah, so we developed this term compulsory monogamy, piggybacking off of it, to talk about the way that there's like a social mandate that everyone, and especially women, have to be in a monogamous relationship in order to be considered a morally upstanding adult. Like compulsory heterosexuality, it is also an institutionalized expectation of dating behavior that some people find hard to break out of. So that native activist we were talking about earlier, Tall Bear, says we need to attack compulsory monogamy at a structural level, tearing down the ways in which it continues to be rewarded in society at both a cultural and policy level. In doing so, she suggests we have to grapple with this question of what kinds of relationships could best meet our needs for connection, care, and community. She says, this is because how we relate to one another on a one-to-one level and on a collective level is part of our politics. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really true. I think the compulsory monogamy thing is really interesting. I think growing up, I didn't even, I watched that movie Splendor when I was a kid, and I was like, whoa, this is cool. But nowhere in society did I ever actually see that there was an ethical way to be non-monogamous until my 20s, at least. I didn't know. I just thought that you had to be in these monogamous relationships, whether you wanted to or not, whether it was good for you or not, because that's just what you had to do.
Yeah, it just seemed like, it's kind of like, does a fish know it's swimming in the water?
Right. It was just so everywhere. I was like, this is just, if I want to have relationships with other people and engage with other people, I have to do this. This is the only way to get that kind of connection or relationship with somebody.
Yeah, not to say that, by default, like if you want to do, or the thing, you can't, it's just the default.
Yeah, if you like monogamy, obviously that's fine. Lots of people do. But yeah, you don't like the idea that there's only one way to live a life and everybody's going to tell you if you do it, it's wrong, even if it's not harming anybody.
Yeah, to me it's like you got to be able to choose.
You've got to know the
options and then choose.
Exactly. So, and there are options. There are different options. There are alternatives to monogamy. And the first thing to note is that destroying compulsory monogamy, yes, of course, does not mean eradicating all monogamy. Some people, like my partner, thrive in monogamous relationships, or Kenna thrives in monogamous relationships. The idea is more just to, yes, remove those institutional benefits that accompany monogamy, as well as the expectation that monogamy is the only way to live your life or have a relationship. So when you break down the expectation of monogamy, we also break down society's emphasis on the nuclear family, and we open up to opportunities for just a more community-minded world to take hold in general. And there are lots of different ways to do monogamy. I found this list online that was really funny to me. It was 14 things, but I added one. And some of them I was like, I've never even fucking heard of that one. But okay, so I'm going to read it. So the first one is polyamory, which we hear a lot, which these people just defined as having romantic love with many people. These are really short descriptions, obviously. There is also a lot of ethical non-monogamy theory that you can get really into.
Oh, yeah.
I've known some people who got really into the theory and you're like, oh, this is a lot. The second is hierarchical polyamory, which is where you have a primary partner, which would operate like a standard couple or long-term relationship, but you would also see other people. You would just have the understanding that your primary partner came first. And I've been in a lot of relationships like that. You could also do solo polyamory, which is where you don't want a primary partner, you don't want to live with somebody else, you don't want one long-term partner. You're just you doing your thing and you're having romantic relationships with people, but you're not interested in pair bonding, basically. There's also relationship anarchy. This was not included in the list. I had to include this. But this is where you're in however many relationships you want, and they're all equally important and valid without any hierarchy whatsoever, even if they vary in intensity or connection. There's also a throuple or a triad, which I feel like most of us heard of. This is when 3 people are usually in a relationship together. There's also a variation of that, though, called a closed V. I've never heard this term used to describe it, but I've definitely seen this in practice a lot. So this is where 3 people are kind of in a relationship, but one person just has a relationship with the 2 others, and the 2 others do not have a relationship with each other, but they might all live together, but not operate as a triad, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
So this would definitely be like the movie Splendor by Gregoraki. The girl lives in the apartment, she's got her 2 boyfriends, they have kids, they operate as a unit, but the guys don't have a relationship with each other.
Gotcha.
There's also a quad, which would be 4 people in a relationship with each other to varying degrees of intimacy. There's also polyfidelity, which is where a group relationship is faithful only to each other, and they usually live together and raise kids together. There's also something called monogamish, which is monogamous couples mostly, who do also sometimes allow for external short-term affairs. There's don't ask, don't tell, which is where couples see other people on the side but try not to expose their partner at home to the details. There's kitchen table poly, which would be the opposite of don't ask, don't tell, I think. Everything's on the table, everyone's chill, everyone can talk about shit with no drama. This has been most of my poly relationships, I think. There's also just swinging, which I feel like is something we think of as boomer culture, right?
Oh, I think of for sure Austin Powers.
Yeah. This is where you just have casual sex with other people without romantic relationships.
I think about it, you put the keys in the bowl.
Yes, exactly.
And you go home with whoever's keys you take.
Yeah. It's couple kind of swapping, that kind of thing is how I think of swinging. There is also this thing called soft swap swinging, which is where there are rules and restrictions about what is allowed, but you do partner swapping. There's also BDSM-based non-monogamy, where relationships are opened up to people only who fulfill a specific sexual kink of someone in the relationship that the other partner does not want to fulfill. So if you had a sexual kink and you're I need this, and your partner's I cannot do that for you, you can get that from someone else
Gotcha.
That kind of thing. And then there's just open relationships, which is usually just like a couple, and they're allowed to have relationships with other people along the way, as long as it doesn't, kind of compromise too much of what's going on. So, yeah, some of these terms, to be frank, I never heard of. Like the closed V, I've never heard anybody describe it that way. But, I think that's because in real life, a lot of people engage with non-monogamy in a way that's less structured and just more natural to their needs. Like, I've personally been in lots of different types of poly relationship dynamics, and they always kind of vary based on who I'm engaging with, who I'm spending most of my time with, what their boundaries are, what they want, what's going on in their life. And I think the most important takeaway is that people should just, be free to decide what types of relationships work for them and pursue them without fear of shame or judgment. And that's what's missing when you have compulsory monogamy, right? It elevates the nuclear family, it elevates the destruction of the community, and it never even tells you, like, hey, did you know you had a choice in what kind of relationship you want and what works for you and what makes you feel whole and good? And this brings me to a section that I happily called Sex and the Capitalist City. So this is really like the Marxist feminist critique of monogamy. So something really interesting, obviously, about sex and dating is how it interacts with capitalism, also in terms of like women's sexual pleasure. So Kristen Godsey wrote this book called Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism, which references the fact that East German women, during the time of the Iron Curtain, right? You had the socialist women in East Germany and the capitalist women in West Germany. The women in East Germany reported having higher levels of sexual satisfaction than West German women.
Interesting. So
2/3 of East German women reported that they almost always had an orgasm during sex. Another 18% chose that they did so often, and 82% of them reported being happy after sex. On the flip side, though, the West German women living under capitalism experienced orgasms half as much as their communist counterparts, and only 52% of them reported being happy after sex. And this ties into these studies we have today, which show that couples who share housework or childcare tend to have more sex. So this theory that Godsey is putting forth is that when the labor of women is valued equally in society, they are less likely to be viewed as sexual objects and experience sexual commodification. Like under capitalism, Godsey says, women's sexuality becomes a commodity. It might not be an explicit exchange like we think of with traditional sex work, but Godsey says there is a set of shifting social expectations that lead to women making demands for emotional or financial support, for example, in exchange for access to their sexuality. And this often does, yes, happen in the confines of monogamy and marriage. So Godsey says, when women enjoy their own source of income and the state guarantees social security in old age, illness, and disability, women have no economic reason to stay in abusive, unfulfilling, or otherwise unhealthy relationships. And the result is women being in relationships that actually serve and suit their needs. So this ties in with what you were talking about earlier, like how many people stay in bad relationships because they can't afford to leave, and how that ties into capitalism and the lack of a social safety net. Godsey basically says, like, look, under capitalism, women are expected to sell their sexuality on the open market, point blank. And I have this really good quote from her about this kind of idea. She says, the price of women's sexuality is determined by other opportunities women have to provide for their needs. In societies with no birth control, no reproductive freedom, and no education or professional training for women, they will have no choice but to marry in order to support themselves. In societies with high levels of women's rights and reproductive freedoms, women will not be forced into commodifying their sexuality. It means that attacks on women's rights and freedoms are always veiled attempts to put women back into a dependent relationship to men. So how does this extend into our notions of monogamy? Well, Godsey thinks that in heterosexual monogamous relationships where women are dependent, the labor they provide is free. Otherwise, right, the state would have to pay for things like childcare and home care. So she says, look, keeping a woman in a domesticated state to perform free labor in the home is in the benefit of the capitalist state entity. They are lifting a huge burden away from society, the women are, by doing this labor for free. So when women end up in non-monogamous or queer relationships, it literally threatens the state and society's ability to exploit their unpaid labor. So Tatiana Cozzarelli kind of talks about this as well and explains, in capitalism, the family unit has its roots in a patriarchal system that preceded it. The family is based on heteronormative gender roles, supposedly grounded in, quote, science or biology. Women supposedly have a biological inclination for reproductive labor, like cooking, cleaning, raising children, and washing clothes. The woman's role in unpaid domestic labor is essentially to keep the wheels of capitalism turning. That is why the capitalist system is enormously invested in gender roles, and particularly in the unpaid childcare and housework that occur within the family sphere. After all, it would cut into the profits if capitalists had to pay for the reproduction of the working class. The ideology that women are biologically destined to be mothers and caregivers has stubbornly persisted despite the abundant counterexamples in our society, from same-sex couples to women who don't give birth, stay-at-home dads, and other non-traditional models. Perhaps more interestingly to me, Cozzarelli also says, capitalism promotes a romantic familial ideology. From the time we are born, we indoctrinate to our proper gender roles and to the fallacy that one romantic partner can abate the alienation of capitalism and make one feel whole and complete. A message especially targeted at women. The traditional family unit can be a place of support in the midst of an alienating and isolating world, while at the same time being a unit of sexual misery imposed by monogamy. And I thought this was really interesting because this just reminds me of like how many little girls are taught to like look forward to their wedding day or think about marriage, or how all of those romantic comedies are geared at women finding, you know, the man of their dreams after wanting their whole life desperately just to be a bride. And I don't think there's anything wrong with people who like look forward to being a wife. Like I said in the beginning, like my worst nightmare is waking up one day and realizing I just became some dude's wife. Like that is harmful to me to think about. But some people would love to be somebody's wife. And like, that's fine and that's valid.
You get to choose that.
You get to choose that. And the idea of the social indoctrination that targets women in particular, it's true. That's something we see in our culture all the time. So Godsey, who wrote the book about women having better sex under socialism, says, there's a reason why conservatives are so unhappy about the breakdown of the family, because they know it is going to cost them money. People outside of the bourgeois monogamous relationship, whether a monogamous queer couple or bisexuals, whatever, are already challenging capitalism. And in her article, Commons of Love, The Socialist Case for Polyamory, Gracie Bett says, capitalism has refined an efficient system of social reproduction. The default model for much of the global north, and especially the United States, is a monogamous, heterosexual married couple. The married coupling then typically raises 2 or 3 children, providing a reliable supply of workers for the labor market. And Bett explains that the hyper-individualist thinking necessary to advance capitalism, the same thinking, you know, that tells you that, like, you're special, you're the exception, if you just work hard enough, you'll end up on top. This hyper-individualist thinking, it's actually something that creates the conditions under which monogamy makes sense. Under capitalism, she says, it makes sense for love to be possessive, jealous, and exclusive. Our lives are atomized and individualized in nearly every way. Housing? Everyone has their own unit. Transportation? Folks largely choose cars rather than public transit. Leisure? Well-manicured private lawns instead of public parks. Parenting? A 2-person unit and occasionally familial support of paid childcare. We've been socialized to live individually rather than communally, a logical byproduct of this hegemony. Lovers begin to view relationships with the same lens. Why share a romantic partner when conditioned to not share any other facets of life?
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Very spot on.
Very interesting. And this might be why people in consensual non-monogamous relationships actually report being happier than monogamous people on the whole, especially in things like a feeling of social connection and closeness with others.
Wow.
Consensual non-monogamists also drink less alcohol, are less likely to use drugs, and report higher levels of sexual satisfaction in general, even with people they consider primary partners.
Wow.
So, yeah, again, obviously none of this means you have to be in a poly-triad in order to support the revolution, right? Like, it's not, this is the future the liberals want. What works for each of us is going to be totally different, and nobody should ever feel pressured to step outside of their comfort zone. However, it might be worth really considering what our individual wants and needs are in a relationship, then learning how to communicate those needs to others. Like, I never dreamed of being someone's wife, but as a teenager, I did dream of living in a big loft in New York City with 2 partners, a dog, and a really fun Friday night out where I get to do whatever I want and see where the evening takes me without fear of losing my at-home support system or hurting the people I care about. And I think the world we have seldom allows for us to imagine our own futures like that, with creativity and purity, and ask, what would truly work for me? And what am I doing just because it benefits the heteronormative monogamy capitalist machine that views me not as a person with my own wants and needs and agency, but as a tool of domestic service whose main job is to breed, to create children to become the workers of tomorrow?
Yeah.
So that's the episode on monogamy.
Yeah.
Kenna, what do you think?
There's a lot to unpack here.
And you, as the woman, will have to do that labor. With 3 screaming children by your side. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think sometimes people think that a relationship, especially like a monogamous relationship where you marry the one, and then you have kids with the one, and the kids give your life value and meaning. I feel like you don't need to have all that to have value and meaning.
No, yeah, you definitely can have value and meaning outside of that paradigm. And I think
But if you find value and meaning in it,
amazing.
More
power to you.
It's more like, I think that sometimes it's hard for us to see that just because it's kind of like the default here in our culture.
Right.
You know?
A place I look a lot is on the regretful parents subreddit.
I know you talk.
I think about this a lot. And I go there, and it kind of is like a really special community. It is a safe place for parents who regret having children to talk about the frustrations they're facing without fear of shame from other people. And it's a really good space because you see a lot of times people feeling alone, people feeling isolated, people not knowing how they're supposed to do this, people struggling financially, a lot of women realizing that the burden of home care and childcare has fallen solely on them. You know, you really kind of see this compulsory monogamy, heteronormative nuclear family unit, this trauma, right, play out in people's lives in real time. And it's heartbreaking. And it's good, obviously, that a place exists where people can at least vent to other people who won't judge them and will understand maybe where they're coming from. But it is a really, really shocking look at the way that, like, the expectation of the nuclear family is destroying people actively currently right now.
I think it's just making it the default for reasons of control. Yeah. Mainly for production, for people who own the means of production, you know, or own businesses. It's like people who own businesses want people to work. And
right.
I mean, and I think that's, you know, what's going on with reproductive rights right now. It really is literally about how do we have more of a population to work, because the American population is dwindling.
Right. And it's dwindling because workers are underpaid and can't even begin to imagine caring for another human life.
So you have to force people.
So you have to force people. You gotta say you're gonna figure it out no matter what.
And like, you know, I think to me it's just like, if you took that out of the equation, how would you live your life? You know, I think like it's really an exercise in imagination. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people would live who you would think who conform to everyday standards might live their life extremely differently. And how exciting is that to know what you would do if you could do anything? If you did not have those constraints, you know? Yeah. And it makes me feel sad that people don't have that choice.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I think Marx once said, like, he's not particularly preoccupied with imagining what a post-revolutionary society would look like in romantic or utopian ideas. And I think, like, to me in particular, that act of imagining, I think that I enjoy that. I also think it's important from a revolutionary perspective. I think, like, if people were able to imagine the life they could have, that's an invigorating force.
Like, if you're like, you know what? I'm going to go roller skating every day with my 5 boyfriends.
Yeah, or, like, we're going to have a child, but the child is raised by our community, and I commit to this many hours of childcare, and I know that, like, my life isn't now relegated to being in service of this child. There are people who are paid caregivers for the child, and we do this all together as a community and as a unit. And we are all mothers, we are all fathers, we are all children, we are all sisters, we are all brothers. Not in this, like, creepy commune way, but in the way that it's just, like, no, like, it does take a village to raise people and make people well and happy, and we all can be many things to each other.
Yeah, and, like, actually a really good book that imagines a society where non-monogamy is actually the default is The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin, which I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the characters in the book talks about, like, he chooses to do, like, monogamy. Mm-hmm. And how people are just like, what?
Yes.
But because most people are happy, but he's like, I'm happy with this. It's like, but the thing is, it's like, you know, to us, we're like, what? Like, and you're just like, well, how would people actually live to their fullest happiness? Like, I think that people really... like, I don't know. It's, you know, this is also like, I think that happiness is really important. And,
I think
you know,
so too.
You can't be happy if you don't know the other options that you have that would make you happy.
Right. And I think one of the things that I keep coming back to all the time is, like, you're allowed to ask for whatever type of relationship you want. You never know until you ask for it what somebody else might want as well.
Yeah. And I just think, you know, rom-coms have poisoned us. No.
Have they? They might have.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know, I think my main takeaway is, like, I feel like I see a lot of people, you know, struggling with, like, relationships and family defining their value, when that should, maybe don't think of it that way.
Yeah, I agree completely. Well, our final takeaways for monogamy. Reliance on the nuclear family, bad.
Yeah.
Monogamy, fine if that's what you're into, man.
Yeah. Do whatever you want, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
Do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Talk to your partners about your wants and your needs. Get creative. Think outside the box.
Just something to think about.
And I'm going to think outside of your mom's box later tonight.
Oh!
Okay, that's the episode. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Pick Me Up, I'm Scared. If you would like to join us on Patreon for $2 a month, you can get access to bonus content, including bonus episodes. That is patreon.com/pickmeupimscared. And as always, the sources for the research for this week's episode can be found in our show notes.